Chapter 1424. The million-strong Yi family army was the most elite group of low-level martial artists in the immortal world. Many of these elites were manor lords of various manors. In order to follow Yi Qinghan, they did not hesitate to give up glory and status. In the end, pretty much all of them died here. These were all people who had a high chance of becoming honorables and grade 9 experts. Now that so many of them had died, Zhu Yi felt a wave of pain in her heart. She felt like she didn't dare to go back and face Yi Qinghan. Ice Queen's face was cold. She forced herself to focus and sent a voice transmission to Zhu Yi. "Zhu Yi, don't be sad. Everyone needs you now." Zhu Yi was stunned and came back to her senses. She was the commander of the army. Anyone could be sad, depressed, and emotional, but she couldn't. Her gaze immediately became cold, and she immediately glanced at Black. She transmitted her voice to him. "Emperor Black, how is it? Have you swallowed enough energy? Can you evolve?" Xiaohei pouted and grinned. "It is enough, but I don't dare to refine it now, otherwise I will fall asleep. Let's talk about it when we return to God World." Zhu Yi was pumped up. She finally heard a piece of good news. It was worth it for so many people to die in God World. She sent the news to Ice Queen and she was delighted. "All of you collect the badges. After you do, we will announce our retreat and return to God World." Zhu Yi immediately sent the message. Everyone who could move started to collect the badges from the corpses on the ground. There were many badges. Although the alien and subterranean beasts took some, it was enough for God World to gather 5 million points. Pan Xing didn't play any tricks this time. After God World announced their retreat, he used the restrictions to teleport the God World army to the peak of Mount Pan. However, Pan Xing's gaze was really unfriendly, especially when he stared at Xiaohei. Although Xiaohei couldn't see it, he felt a cold, intense spread from the depths of his soul. 14 of the 22 planes have already been destroyed in battle. There are still 8 more. These 8 planes are really stubborn. This emperor doesn't believe that you will be able to win the next planar war. Pan Xing sneered as he looked at the legions that were teleported up one after another. 5 million points. Besieged by a few existential planes, yet there were still 8 legions that survived and obtained enough points. The aberration that was born from the Supreme Slaughter God Blade is quite strong. Without this aberration, the divine world would be finished, right? Don't think that I don't know that the 10 ancient clans have secretly joined the battle. Wait till this emperor finds that person, then I'll slowly settle the score with you all. Pan Xing's gaze swept across Xiaohei's body and paused on Zhu Yi's body for a while. Then he swept his gaze across the other 7 planes. After a while he still didn't find anything. He sneered and said faintly, "Hide, continue to hide. Let's see how you can hide when your plane is defeated." One by one the planes teleported over. Pan Xing also knew that he wouldn't be able to find that person in this planar war. He had no choice but to let all the victorious planes leave. Pan Xing's gaze swept across Zhu Yi and Xiaohei, causing the 2 of them to feel a chill down their spines. Zhu Yi was extremely nervous. Even the careless Xiaohei felt that things weren't right. Only when Pan Xing told all the planes to hand over their badges and the Divine World Army was teleported to the lava canyon did Zhu Yi and Xiaohei heave a sigh of relief. Zhu Yi waved her hands and told the Divine World Army to start teleporting. Half of her body leaned weakly on Ice Queen's body as she looked towards Pan Shan. They had survived another calamity, but what about the next time? She felt that Pan Xing wouldn't let this matter rest so easily. Perhaps 10,000 years later, the next planar war would begin again. Thanks. Zhu Yi was right. The moment Zhu Yi and the others returned to Supreme Island, Xiaohei immediately found a side hall and started to refine the energy in his body. He fell into a deep sleep. A bolt of purple lightning exploded in the sky once more. When Zhu Yi teleported up, she noticed that it stated that the next planar war would begin in 10,000 years and that the God World would participate in it. Her body was about to go soft and she fell down powerlessly. If not for Ice Queen flying up and carrying her down, she would have smashed into the ground. "Where is the Emperor? Where is the Emperor? Where is the Beast God? Send a message for him to come and see me." When Ice Queen carried Zhu Yi into her palace, Zhu Yi jumped up and exclaimed. Lei Zhen and the others who came to welcome didn't even have time to ask about the situation before their faces tensed up. Lei Zhen explained, "The Beast God sent a message back a few decades ago. He sent people to the fairy plane. Little Han isn't there. He hasn't returned in all these years." Ah. Zhu Yi went completely limp this time, her whole body powerless to sit on the throne. The 2 planar wars had put her under too much pressure. Now that the God World had lost a lot of strength, Xiao He was in deep sleep and who knew whether or not he would wake up in 10,000 years. Zhu Yi was completely flustered. She couldn't even stand up straight under the weight of that 10,000 gene weight. Send people to search for him. Head to the Fairy Plane, Golden Dragon Plane, Reincarnation Plane. Head to all the mid-tier planes to find the Emperor. If the Emperor doesn't return, then in 10,000 years the God world might be wiped out. Zhu Yi hollered. Maybe Yi Qinghan might not have a solution when he returned, but for some reason she believed that as long as Yi Qinghan was there, the God world wouldn't be wiped out. Even if the enemy was Pan Xing. Lei Jin and the others were terrified. The God world army sent 1 million people and so little came back. Water God race had 3 grade 9s, Wind Moon Sovereign, Green Mountain race Chief Qing Shui were dead and Jito was still unconscious. Now that the God decree had descended once more, the God world had joined the war once more. Moreover, they heard that the God world gained 5 million points in the last planar war. Even the stupidest person could feel that something was wrong. Zhu Yi panicked and everyone panicked. Immediately, countless orders were passed down. Countless flying phoenixes took off into the endless void. A day later, Soul Emperor Pavilion and Beast God Palace also took off with the experts of the God world to search for Yi Qinghan. Because of the God world's Pyrrhic victory in the planar war, Yi Qinghan had not appeared for tens of thousands of years. Emperor Xiao He was in deep sleep, and the planar war in 10,000 years, everyone was panicking. Although they didn't know what was going on, countless flying phoenixes took off and countless big shots had ugly expressions. They could feel that something big was going to happen. Countless rumors began to spread. The atmosphere of the God world became extremely heavy and suffocating. Are you sure our emperor isn't in your fairy plane? If you dare lie to us, the God world's army will flatten your fairy plane. Beast God looked at Yao Mu and Yao Concubine coldly. Yi Feihu went to the demon plane the day after he returned. He immediately brought Yi Feihu and the two rushed to the fairy plane as fast as possible. In the end they got the same answer as last time. Humph, if he isn't here then he isn't. If you don't believe me you can go find him yourself. Your God world's emperor is missing and you're blaming us? Our king went to your God world and his whereabouts are unknown. That's right. Can the God world do whatever they want just because they are strong? Bring your army and attack us. Let's see if our fairy plane is afraid of death. If you dare to attack us, I will go to Mount Pan and ask the God Emperor to help me. The Bloodbat race still didn't attack the fairy plane. Yao Mu and Yao Concubine had already concealed it last time, so they decided to keep it a secret. The two gritted their teeth and said. With Yi Qinghan gone, they didn't have the confidence to resist the Bloodbat race. So what if Yi Qinghan found out in the future? Didn't their king have an ambiguous relationship with him? Let's go. The God world was in chaos now. Beast God didn't dare to fall out with the fairy plane. Besides, he thought that with him and Yi Feihu appearing, if Yi Qinghan was really in the fairy plane, the two of them wouldn't dare to hide it. Over the years, countless flying phoenixes returned, but there was no news of Yi Qinghan. In fact, Zhu Yi sent hundreds of thousands of people to the land of reincarnation with special jade talismans, but there was still no news of Yi Qinghan. Zhu Yi and the experts fell into panic. The God world was in complete chaos. It was as if doomsday was coming. Chapter 1425. After the Cold Realm established the land of reincarnation, the speed of comprehending the laws actually doubled. She finished comprehending the ultimate mystery of the wood laws so quickly. This Tao of the heavens, the Tao of nature, is helpful to the cultivation of the laws. Yi Qinghan was completely unaware of what was happening in the immortal world. At this moment he was immersed in boundless joy. In less than 10,000 years, he had already comprehended one of the 6 high-grade profound mysteries of the wood element, and this was under the circumstance that the enchantress wasn't by his side. Yi Qinghan also confirmed one point. The evolution speed of the cold realm was directly proportional to his cultivation speed. How could this Yao Fei have the Tao of the heavens cultivation method? The Tao of the heavens is the great Tao of nature. It is very heaven-defying. If she reaches large success, her strength will be incomparably terrifying. Should I think of a way to trick her? When a martial artist cultivated to the God realm, they had to comprehend the laws of the heavens and earth. In other words, they had to understand the world in Pangea. The more you understood, the more intimate the heavens and earth would be to you, and the more power you could borrow from the heavens and earth. If you could comprehend the mysteries of the 12 laws, the heavens and earth would completely recognize you. You could move the heavens and earth as you pleased, and you would become a supreme God Emperor. As for Yao Fei's Tao of the heavens, although it was not comprehending the laws of the heavens and earth, it was a different way of getting closer to the heavens and earth. The closer the heavens and earth were to you, the more power you could borrow. This was the reason why Yao Fei's original strength had been forcefully increased by others, and yet she could still grow infinitely stronger. There were 3,000 great Daos, but they all led to the same destination. The ultimate goal was to use the power of the heavens and earth. To use the might of the heavens and earth to kill the enemy. Yi Qinghan had obtained the first half of the Tao of the heavens, and it had helped him solve a problem that he had not been able to solve for tens of thousands of years. He was also very interested in the complete Tao of the heavens and was also very curious about how the ancestors of the Fae had obtained this Tao of the heavens and earth. As he thought about it, his divine sense subconsciously swept towards Yao Fei's chamber, only to discover that she had just woken up. Her beautiful face was filled with excitement as she clenched her fists tightly. She smiled and said, "This Empress has broken through again. Right now, I have already comprehended 60% of this cultivation technique. When this Empress has comprehended it to the Great Circle, I will definitely be able to kill that detestable deity Realm the Arch. This Empress will definitely make her tremble under my feet." F***CK. When Yi Qinghan heard this, he became indignant. "I have to leave my hometown to help you guard this place. Why do you still want to kill me?" His body flashed and he teleported over angrily. He shouted angrily at Yao Fei, "Get up, I'll bring you out." Yao Fei, was startled by Yi Qinghan's sudden appearance. When she saw Yi Qinghan's cold expression and unkind tone, she asked curiously, "What are you going out for?" "This spatial artifact of yours has a powerful spirit-gathering array. This king's cultivation speed is very fast, but how can this king's cultivation speed be that fast outside? I'm not going out." Yi Qinghan's complexion became even more unfriendly. He felt that he was nurturing a tiger that would invite calamity. He coldly snorted and said, "Get out, get out. Yours truly is going back. Go wherever it's cool. Just take it that I've raised an ingrate. From now on we'll mind our own business. Of course if you still want to take revenge on me, come at me. If you can kill this young master then you'll have the ability. But next time, this young master will definitely not show mercy to the fairer sex." This king is not going out. Yao Fei, felt the restrictions of the War Monarch Palace envelop her. A wave of energy was acting on her body, and she could not help but panic. Her body flashed with green light as she resisted the teleportation. When she saw the cold expression on Yi Qinghan's face, she felt rather confused and wronged. Her watery eyes looked pitifully at Yi Qinghan as she whispered, "How can you be like this? Falling out with me just like that?" Yi Qinghan said coldly, "Falling out with me just like that? This young master has helped you guard this plane for 10,000 years. We agreed to forget all our past grudges, but you still want to raise your strength to kill me?" It was only now that Yao Fei realized that Yi Qinghan had overheard what she had said after she came out of seclusion. She snuck a glance at Yi Qinghan and said with some shame, "She was just casually saying it. This king will not seek revenge from you. If I was wrong, I'll apologize to you, alright?" Yi Qinghan waved his hand, clearly not buying it. 10,000 years have passed. Your plane has been very safe, and the blood bat race has not attacked. I've done what I promised you, so it's time for me to go back. No. Yao Fei was completely anxious. She could see the longing in Yi Qinghan's eyes. It seemed that he had steeled his heart to return. She was a very stubborn person, even paranoid. Once she set her mind on something, she would follow it to the end. Otherwise, she would not have pestered Yi Qinghan so much in the past. When she heard that Yi Qinghan was leaving, not only was she afraid that her Fey race would be exterminated, but she also felt an emptiness in her heart. For the first 20 years of her life, she had grown up under the protection of several powerhouses of her race. For the next tens of thousands of years she had followed Yi Qinghan. She already had an inexplicable affection for him. She immediately said in a panic, "You can't go. If you go, what will happen to me? Our Fey race will be exterminated. You can't go." Yi Qinghan's eyebrows shot up. He mercilessly said, "Damn. I'm not your man. What is your life or death? What does the life or death of the Fey race have to do with me? I've already helped you guard the plane for 10,000 years. I've already done my part." Yao Fei was even more anxious. She immediately grabbed onto Yi Qinghan, afraid that he would run away. Her face was red as she said, "How are you not my man? I promised to marry you. I am the king of the Fey race and you are my man. Of course you have to take responsibility for the Fey race." Fall? Yi Qinghan was speechless, but his tone softened. He took 2 deep breaths and said, "When did I promise to marry you? Do you think I'm such a casual person?" It wasn't that Yi Qinghan was being pretentious. Ever since he took in the Ice Queen, Yi Qinghan's flirtatious personality had cooled down quite a bit. Although this Yao Fei was a top beauty, and the Fei race was extremely sexy, Pan Xing's giant axe was still hanging over his head. He didn't have the heart to be with women. You're not a casual person? Yao Fei looked at Yi Qinghan in disdain. She said shyly, I'm still a virgin. My entire body has been touched by you. My chastity has been destroyed by you. How can you not be casual? You're a man. Don't you dare to admit it? Oh. 3 black lines appeared on Yi Qinghan's brow. He said helplessly, I said it was a misunderstanding. Forget it, let's do this. Yi Qinghan thought for a moment. It had only been 10,000 years. Since the godly world had been defeated and Xiao He was there shouldn't be any big problems. Also, he had told Yao Mu and Yao Concubine to send a message back to the godly world. If anything happened, Zhu Yi would definitely send someone to find him. Since that was the case, it wouldn't be a problem to cultivate here for tens of thousands of years. Perhaps when he reached the large success stage of the laws of fire, he would be able to comprehend the 5 basic elemental laws of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. It would form a cycle. His strength would increase greatly. He could give them a surprise when he returned. After thinking things through, Yi Qinghan stated his conditions. I can agree to continue guarding here for 30,000 years, but you must give me the complete Heavenly Dao cultivation technique. Heavenly Dao cultivation technique? Yao Fei's eyes flashed with craftiness. She smiled sweetly and said straightforwardly, deal. Chapter 1426. I got the Heavenly Dao Supreme Secret Art. I'll comprehend the fire elemental laws first before I comprehend the Heavenly Dao Supreme Secret Art. Yao Fei passed the Heavenly Dao Supreme Secret Art to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan didn't bother with Yao Fei. He turned and teleported away, preparing to continue his cultivation. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Yi Qinghan knew that some 9th grade Supremes must have comprehended them before. However, he also had a faint feeling that he was different from others. As long as he could comprehend all 5 elemental laws of heaven and earth, his strength would undergo an earth-shattering transformation. Although this feeling was somewhat inexplicable and unreasonable, Yi Qinghan had always believed in his own feelings. Just like how Xiao He felt that he was about to evolve, that everything would evolve in the end. This was also one of the main reasons why Yi Qinghan didn't want to go back. He had already left the godly world, his women, and his people for tens of thousands of years. If he didn't make any breakthroughs, he would be too ashamed to go back. Either he didn't go back or he had to be strong enough to protect them. Pan Xing, I really don't want to fight you. You can be your divine emperor, and I will be my godly world emperor. If you insist on killing me, I can only kill you mercilessly in the end. No matter how strong you are. Yi Qinghan carried an incomparably firm confidence as he once again began his closed-door training crazily. No, none of them. Where did the emperor go? In Sealed God Valley, Zhu Yi kept receiving news from all over. She didn't show any emotion on her face, but her heart was burning with anxiety. Thousands of years had passed. The godly world had sent out tens of thousands of flying phoenixes to search for Yi Qinghan. Even in the land of reincarnation, they had sent out tens of thousands of people to search for Yi Qinghan. But they didn't find anything. If not for the fact that Yi Qinghan's soul jade slip was still intact, Zhu Yi would have thought that Yi Qinghan was already dead. Zhu Yi suspected that Yi Qinghan was in the fairy plane. Back in the land of reincarnation, Yi Qinghan had brought Yao Fei with him. And the last time he appeared was in the night plane. If he didn't go to the fairy plane, where did he go? However, the beast deity brought Yi Feihu there personally, and the other party insisted that Yi Qinghan wasn't there. Most importantly, the Yao concubine had made a threat. If the god realm dared to touch the demoness plane, she would definitely complain to Pan Xing. It was already a troubled time, so Zhu Yi was even more afraid to move. Otherwise, it would be the end of the world. Yi Qinghan's harem group was also anxious. Xiao He was in a deep sleep. It was the ultimate evolution. No one knew how long he would sleep for. Maybe thousands of years, maybe tens of thousands of years. The last time Xiao He evolved, the god realm was almost destroyed. Xiao He didn't wake up. If not for Yi Qinghan comprehending the unyielding Tao and refining the energy in Xiao He's body with the help of the divine lightning, who knew how long it would take for Xiao He to wake up, it was very likely that Xiao He wouldn't wake up before the next dimensional war. Yi Qinghan wasn't around, and the dimensional war was getting more and more perverted. No one knew how Pan Xing would play with him in the next dimensional war. Zhu Yi's heart was in a mess. She, who was as intelligent as a demon, had never thought that there would be a day when she would be so anxious, so terrified and so helpless. Under such a heavy atmosphere in the God realm, there were actually 2 lower 9th rank cultivators who broke through. The hermit sovereign had been stuck at the bottleneck for hundreds of thousands of years. Under the great pressure he actually broke through and reached upper 9th rank. Mo Shanghuang broke through almost at the same time as the hermit sovereign. Both of them were immediately given chaos divine crystals by the enchantress. Before Yi Qinghan entered the land of reincarnation, he gave the enchantress 4 chaos divine crystals. If anyone in the God realm broke through, he was to refine them immediately. The hermit sovereign and Mo Shanghuang immediately went into seclusion to refine them. It was estimated that they would break through to 9th rank supreme martial artist in 1,000 years at most. This news gave the God realm a temporary reassurance. Both of them had broken through. Even if Yi Qinghan didn't return and Xiao He didn't wake up before the next dimensional war, the God realm still had 6 9th rank supreme martial artists. It wasn't like they didn't have the power to fight. 6 9th grade supreme martial artists were indeed a very powerful force. In the entire plate realm, there were less than half of the planes that had 6th rank supreme martial artists. But Zhu Yi still felt a chill deep in her heart. Benxing. This suffocating name constantly lingered in Zhu Yi's heart like a nightmare. Zhu Yi had a very bad premonition. Perhaps in the next planar war, the divine world would be completely finished. No, I have to go to the bewitching plane. I have to find little Han. Big sister Zhu Yi has suffered too much. In a palace in the Seal Valley of Gods, Yi Qingwu's face was full of anger. She paced back and forth in the main hall. She complained, little Han is really too much. It's fine if he's a playboy, but what time is it now? He actually went to the bewitching plane to pick up beauties? See if I don't give him a lost scout when he comes back. But the old ancestor of the beast god said that little Han isn't in the bewitching plane? Yi Qingwu's thoughts were simple and she asked doubtfully. The enchantress said, little Han should be in the bewitching plane. But he probably isn't lusting after Yao Fei. He probably encountered a bottleneck in his cultivation. So, everyone chattered on. Finally Yu Qingqing, the mistress of the harem, said, Zhu Yi didn't ask us to look for him, so let's not move around. Once we're in a mess, Zhu Yi will have an even bigger headache. Yao Yao and the others especially tell them to keep a close eye on them. Don't let them run around. Once Yu Qingqing spoke, everyone didn't dare to speak anymore. Everyone had always trusted Yu Qingqing's words. Li Shui returned to her palace and immediately found the demon devourer. She solemnly instructed, Yao Yao, you and Zishi better stay in the holy city for now. Don't run around. If you dare to go to the bewitching plane to look for your uncle and dare to act recklessly, I'll definitely lock you up for 10,000 years. Understood, mother. We definitely won't run around. Yao Yao nodded obediently. Only then did Li Shui leave satisfied. When she left, Yao Yao's eyes, which were exactly the same as Xiao Hei's, started to move. She faintly smiled and said, the bewitching plane? It's not bad to go and play. With uncle there we won't be in danger. But mother and the others will definitely keep a close eye on us. In the future we'll find a chance to sneak out. Right. Let's do it this way. Drag Zishi along 1,300 years later, the hidden sovereign and Mo Shanghuang came out of seclusion one after another. Both of them broke through to the 9th grade supreme martial artist level. The people in the God realm who were originally in turmoil also gradually calmed down. As long as Great Emperor Xiao He woke up before the planar war, everything would be perfect. Before Great Emperor Xiao He evolved, he already had the strength of a 9th grade supreme martial artist. Now that he was undergoing the ultimate evolution, once he woke up, what kind of shocking strength would he have? Zhu Yi and the others didn't know. Moreover, they wouldn't have the chance to find out. Since the start of the planar war, Great Emperor Xiao He had always been in a deep sleep. No matter what method was used, he couldn't be awakened. Beast God, the God realm is in your hands. Wait for Great Emperor Xiao He to come out of seclusion. Tell him not to be impulsive. Everything will be discussed after the Great Emperor returns. Yao Ji, you must stay in the Nifa's abyss at all times. If we lose and the other planes invade the God realm, you must use the restrictions to resist until the Great Emperor returns, or until Great Emperor Xiao He wakes up. Zhu Yi stood in the palace of the Supreme Island and spoke to the beast god, Yao Ji, and the sovereigns stationed in the God realm. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. Why did it seem like Zhu Yi was saying her last words? Of course we won't die so easily. As long as there's a chance of survival, we'll definitely fight for it. If they want to take our lives, they'll have to pay 10 times the price. Zhu Yi forced a smile and took a deep look at Yao Ji. She sent a telepathic message. When the great emperor returns, tell him that I love him very much. I love him very much, I love him very much. In my next life I'll still be his woman. Under Yao Ji's emotional gaze, the beast god's bitter smile, and the burning gazes of several ninth-grade sovereigns, Zhu Yi resolutely turned around and flew out of the palace. She brought most of the elites of the god realm and rushed to the planar war again. Chapter 1427. Dragonmen Plane, Mammoth Beast Plane, Godly World Plane, Fire Lizard Plane. These 8 planes must obtain 10 million points in the dimensional war. Otherwise it won't be considered a victory. Something that made Zhu Yi and the rest despair finally happened. Pan Xing had gone crazy. He actually specified that the 8 planes must obtain 10 million points. 10 million points? Did that mean that they had to kill more than 6 planes? Was it possible? With Yi Qinghan and Xiao He it might be possible. However, with both of them absent, it was absolutely impossible. Your Majesty, this Mo Shanghuang and the Hidden King didn't participate in the last 2-dimensional wars, so they didn't know the situation. They looked at Zhu Yi and saw that Zhu Yi and Ice Queen Night Flying Tiger Jita's faces were pale. That's right, pale. It wasn't pale nor was it snow white. It was a desperate pale. Without Xiao He and Yi Qinghan, the godly world would definitely lose. Pan Xing, you are too vicious. You are forcing the 8 planes to die. Zhu Yi sighed and turned to look at Demon Mountain. It was as if she could see through Demon Mountain to the clouds. Pan Xing was laughing coldly, his face full of mockery. After a long while, Zhu Yi suddenly shouted, Yi Feihu Mo Shanghuang, the hidden sovereign, Mei Er will accompany me to the Demon Mountain. Jida, you will lead the Immortal World Army and return to the Lava Canyon to defend. If we can't obtain 10 million points in Demon Mountain, once we enter the final battle we will defend for a month. Immediately, surrender. Ice Queen Yi Feihu and the rest looked at each other and nodded. Zhu Yi's decision was undoubtedly the best. Within 90 years, the 5 of them would go all out to kill the experts from the other planes. If they still couldn't obtain 10 million points, then they could only surrender. During the last battle, the Godly World Army was almost wiped out. This time they didn't have Xiao He, and the Yi family army was almost wiped out. This time the Godly World Army was much weaker. If they participated in the final battle, the Godly World Army might be wiped out. If that was the case, they might as well surrender and return to the Divine World to defend themselves. With the restrictions in the Nifa's abyss, the Divine World might not be conquered. Most importantly, they could wait for Xiao He to wake up and for Yi Qinghan to return. At worst, the Immortal Realm could just win another dimensional war in the future. Kid also knew the seriousness of the matter and immediately led the million-strong Celestial Realm army back to the Lava Canyon. Outside the Demon Mountain, they might be attacked by 9th-grade supreme martial artists from other dimensions. It was much safer to go to the Lava Canyon. After making this decision, Zhu Yi and the others heaved a sigh of relief. Although this was a dangerous plan, if a powerful plane were to be attacked and Xiao He did not wake up and Yi Qinghan did not return, the immortal world might be conquered by another plane. But at least they had bought some time. At this moment, it wasn't just the Divine World plane that was cursing inwardly. The other 7 planes were also on the verge of going berserk. Pan Xing was clearly targeting the 8 planes, and almost all of them made the same decision as Zhu Yi. Pan Xing, since you want to target us and prevent us from winning, if we can't win we'll just surrender. Of course the other planes weren't fools. The commanders of the Dimensional Army who had some brains knew that these 8 planes would definitely go berserk after Pan Xing's order. Who would risk their lives with you? It was better to wait for the final battle before sneaking in. Of course, many planes were fearless and charged into the Demon Mountain in large numbers. Since you want to risk your lives, we'll do the same. After all, we're killing people and getting points. In the end, it all depends on who's capable. There were fewer martial artists in the Demon Mountain, but the battles became more intense. Once they encountered each other, it would be a battle to the death. Pan Xing changed the rules immediately. If you continue like this, the countless planes in the Demon Mountain will panic and fall into chaos. In the end, a chaotic war may break out. The Demon Mountain will welcome an unprecedented catastrophe. This is not an outcome you can bear. On the peak of the Demon Mountain, the small wooden house on the left that had been closed for countless years opened again. Pan Xing walked out with a cold expression, looking at Pan Xing as she spoke slowly. Pan Xing didn't say anything. The corners of his mouth curled into a cruel smile. He didn't even blink, let alone look at Pan Xing. After a long while he replied, "You don't need to care about my business. I will bear all the consequences." Pan Xing stared at Pan Xing for a long time and finally asked softly, "Are you sure you won't turn back?" "Why should I turn back? Pan Xing sneered, turned around and stared at Pan Shi with a pair of dagger-like eyes. The light in his eyes was incomparably firm as he said word by word, "I didn't do anything wrong. What, do you need me to turn back?" "All right then." Pan Shi sighed faintly. Her gaze swept across the dimensional battlefield. Her beautiful face showed a touch of resolution as she said, "In that case, I'll go find Pan Huang and let him judge personally." "Go." Pan Xing turned his head and said coldly, "For so many years, Pan Huang has never issued a decree. If he doesn't say anything, it means that I didn't do anything wrong. If he might come back. He might even find that person personally and kill him in front of you." "Ah." Pan Shi looked at Pan Xing, who was laughing wildly. She shook her head slightly and lifted her foot. Her body disappeared and appeared millions of miles away in the next second. In a few blinks of an eye, she disappeared from the dimensional battlefield. After Pan Shi left, Pan Xing's laughter stopped abruptly. His eyes sparkled for a while, then turned resolute again. He yelled coldly, "Pan Shi and I are Pan Huang's children. Even if I'm wrong, Pan Huang wouldn't kill his children for an ant, would he? There's no turning back. Even if half of the living beings in Pan Realm perish, I must find you and tear you into pieces." The crazy battle in the dimensional battlefield had just begun, but the divine world was already in chaos. The beast god didn't choose to oversee the demon world. Instead, he continued to guard the Supreme Island. Xiaohe was still sleeping on the Supreme Island. Most importantly, Yao Ji was leading a team of restriction experts to reinforce the restriction in the Nifa's abyss. He needed to be in charge of managing everything in the divine world. Zhu Yi and the others had been in the dimensional battlefield for 30 years, but the women in Flame Dragon City suddenly rushed to the Supreme Island together. They all looked worried and afraid. "Yao Yao and Zishi are missing?" The beast god's expression changed after hearing the purpose of their visit. He was extremely furious, but he didn't dare to show it. Looking at Li Shuer and Firework, who were crying, he sighed and said, "Did the divine world send people to look for them? Didn't Lei Jin send people to look for them? These two children." Sigh. Yu Qingqing's expression was still calm, but her face was full of guilt. She said helplessly, "Yes, Uncle Lei Jin has turned the entire divine world upside down. Now he is sure that the two children have secretly followed Qinghan to the endless void. Yi Feihu's grandson Yi Feihua helped them escape." "Yi Feihua? This bastard is too daring. I will skin him when I get back." The beast god paced back and forth in the hall angrily. He cursed a few times and turned around to ask, "Did you find out where they are going?" The beast god knew very well that Lei Jin only gave him the authority. Since he found out that it was Yi Feihua who helped them, he must have found out where they were going. "The Demoness Plane. I reckon they are already in the Demoness Plane's sphere of influence. They said they are going to look for Qinghan. Feihua lied to us at the beginning. When he told us the truth, it was already too late." Yu Qingqing and the others obviously investigated everything. They came to the beast god because they had no other choice. The Demoness Plane had a 9th grade supreme martial artist. The beast god could represent the divine world and was very powerful. Only he could go to the Demoness Plane and rescue the two girls. These two reckless girls. The beast god sighed. He thought for a moment and said, "Let Lei Jin take charge here and coordinate the divine world's affairs. I will bring people to the Demoness Plane immediately." Chapter 1428. Beast God brought a few level 9 powerhouses and teleported to the demon plane. Then he rode the beast god temple straight to the fairy plane. The two girls, the demon devourer Yao and Yi Zishi, were doted on by everyone and were not afraid of anything. They thought that with Yi Qinghan and Little Black around, no one in the fairy plane would dare to touch them. The beast god had felt that the two of them were very unfriendly the last time he met Yao Mu and Yao Concubine, so he had to go this time. Although the beast god believed that no one would dare to move against the Fey powerhouses once Yao Yao and Yao Yao announced their names, the beast god was still burning with anxiety. Yao Yao was Xiaohei's darling. If Xiaohei knew that Yao Yao and Yi Zishi were captured by the fairy plane and without Yi Qinghan to suppress them, Xiaohei would definitely kill everyone in the fairy plane. In a tunnel, 5 figures were running as fast as lightning. After passing more than 10 tunnels, they found a teleportation restriction. The 5 of them rushed in and disappeared in the tunnel. Not long after the 5 teleported, more than 10 powerhouses with extremely powerful auras rushed in. Looking at the empty tunnel, they were so angry that they started cursing. Cunning humans, they actually escaped. They're from the divine plane. They killed so many powerhouses in the dragon-human plane, but they didn't kill a single one of them. CK. Humph, don't let us meet them during the final battle. Otherwise we'll kill them all. The 10 of them were all half-dragons. Their bodies were covered in scales. Their heads were dragon heads, but their faces were human faces. Their bodies were human, but they had long tails. Looking at their auras, they were all level 9 supreme martial artists. The 10 of them cursed for a while before turning around to continue searching for targets. In a tunnel of Demon Mountain, Zhu Yi and the others sat on the ground powerlessly. Their clothes were messy, their faces bitter, and their bodies were covered in blood. The blood wasn't from the enemy but from themselves. Zhu Yi's back was badly mutilated. Ice Queen supported her with heartache, but Zhu Yi sighed and said, "It's useless. It's been more than 80 years and we only have a little over 4 million points now. There's no need to continue running around. Let's wait for the final battle to begin and announce our defeat." "Queen Zhu Yi and Mo Shanghuang, how are your injuries?" The hidden ruler looked at the two of them with concern. The 5 of them faced dozens of Dragonman Grade 9 Supreme Venerables. If not for them running fast, if not for the Ice Queen's ice element attack slowing them down, all of them would have died. Zhu Yi shook her head and said nothing, but Mo Shanghuang grinned and said in a muffled voice, "I won't die yet." However, Yi Feihu's face was filled with indignation. He looked at Zhu Yi and said, "You really don't want to fight anymore? What can we use to fight?" Zhu Yi shook her head and sighed. "There's still a few more years before we can get more than 5 million points. If we die, not a single one of the Celestial Realm army will be able to return. Let's surrender. Even if we are attacked by other planes, we can use the restrictive spell to delay them until Emperor Xiaohe wakes up and returns." God damn it. Yi Feihu was filled with rage, but he had nowhere to vent it. He could only punch the wall hard, causing the tunnel to shake and mud to fall. The Ice Queen and Mo Shanghuang hidden ruler looked at each other, and a hint of sadness flashed in their eyes. Zhu Yi's words were good, but what if the divine world was attacked by a strong plane like the Dragonman plane? Could the restrictive spell really defend against it? Xiaohe might have already woken up, or he might only wake up tens of thousands of years later. No one could be sure of this. What if Xiaohe didn't wake up? What if Yi Qinghan didn't return? Blood would flow like a river in the divine world and corpses would be everywhere. No one dared to think about it. They could only stay in the tunnel and prepare to spend the next few years in silence. They would defend for another month, teleport to the peak of the board, and announce their defeat. Xiaohe had indeed woken up. Lei Jun sat in Zhu Yi's palace and received reports from a few people. A white-shirt teen suddenly walked in from the door. The teen was handsome and he actually had an ethereal aura around him. He didn't give off any aura at all, and his black eyes didn't look lively anymore. Instead, they were deep as the ocean, like an endless void. What shocked Lei Jun the most was that Xiaohe smiled at him and sat beside him. The 3 honorables who were reporting didn't notice at all. But when Little Black glanced at the 3 venerables, the 3 of them inexplicably fainted. The teacup in Lei Jun's hand finally fell to the ground due to the trembling of his hand. It fell to the ground and splashed. "Xiaohe, your strength. What level has it reached?" Lei Jun's eyes instantly emitted a dazzling light. He stared at Xiaohe and the muscles on his face were trembling. Xiaohe crossed his legs and grabbed a spirit fruit. He took a big bite, and his ethereal aura immediately became frivolous. He grinned and flipped his hair. "Not too strong. I guess I can barely exchange a few moves with Pan Xing." Hiss. Lei Jun took a deep breath and swallowed a few times. He then said with a trembling voice, "Exchange a few moves with Pan Xing? Why don't you believe me? Why don't I go and exchange a few moves with Pan Xing in the next dimensional war?" Xiaohe's expression was casual. After he finished speaking, he raised his eyebrows and asked in confusion, "Why aren't Zhu Yi and the others in the divine realm? There isn't even a 9th grade supreme martial artist? Boss isn't back yet?" If Xiaohe didn't mention it, Lei Jun would have forgotten. He immediately said with a nervous expression, "Xiaohe, you don't know. You slept for 10,000 years and the dimensional war opened again. Zhu Yi and the others brought people there. The beast god was originally in the divine realm. Yao Yao and Zishi secretly went to the fairy plane to look for little Han. The beast god hurried over and hasn't returned yet. He hasn't sent any news either. I'm so worried. What do you think we should do now?" "What?" Lei Jun saw that Xiaohe's strength had reached such a terrifying level and wanted to discuss it with him. In the end, Xiaohe suddenly slammed the spirit fruit in his hand, smashing the table into pieces. His body unintentionally emitted a terrifying aura that made Lei Jun feel suffocated. He couldn't move even if he wanted to, let alone speak. "The fairy plane. Looks like they're courting death." Xiaohe snorted angrily, and his body suddenly disappeared. Lei Jin regained his mobility and was immediately shocked. He scanned with his divine sense and was horrified to find that Xiao He had already appeared in the Flame Dragon Holy City's teleportation array. He actually teleported across the Star Sea. Don't activate the teleportation array. Lei Jin was so scared that his face was as white as snow. He immediately sent a message, but it was too late. The super teleportation array was activated, and Xiao He's figure disappeared in the teleportation array. Motherf asterisk cur. Lei Jin angrily smashed the table beside him. He really wanted to slap himself. He forgot about Xiao He's unscrupulous nature. The situation was originally complicated. He wanted to discuss it with Xiao He, but in the end Xiao He directly went to kill. Yao Ji, you're in charge of the divine realm for now. Lei Jin sent a message to Yao Ji and immediately teleported away. He only arrived outside the Flame Dragon Holy City after half a day. Outside the city, Yu Qingqing and the others were already alarmed by Xiao He's aura. When they saw Lei Jin teleporting over with a black face, they immediately surrounded him and wanted to ask about the situation. Teleport. Lei Jin did not say a word. He flew to a medium teleportation array at the side. The super teleportation array was activated by Xiao He, and it needed a month to store energy. He could only go to the intermediate teleportation array. Firework flew to the teleportation array and asked in surprise, "Father, what happened? Where did Xiao He go?" The teleportation array had already lit up. Lei Jin's figure disappeared in the teleportation array, leaving behind a sentence that shocked all the women. Xiao He killed his way to the fairy plane. I have to chase after him immediately. Something big is going to happen. If Xiao He kills everyone in the fairy plane, the divine realm will be finished. Chapter 1429. You haven't found them? Or are you deliberately hiding it? Let me tell you, Yao Yao is the precious daughter of great Emperor Xiao He. If anything happens to them, I can't guarantee that not a single person in your plane will survive. I'm sure you've all heard of great Emperor Xiao He's methods. In a secondary plane of the fairy plane, the beast god roared furiously. For decades, Yao Mu and Yao Concubine had sent people to search for them, but there had been no news. How could he not be worried? God World Monarch, I know what you're saying. I have absolutely no intention of delaying. I've already mobilized more people to search the fairy plane and all the material planes. There are so many planes, but I can't find them in a short time. There's nothing I can do. You also know that Yao Mu has personally gone to deal with this matter. Yao Concubine was also anxious. It wasn't that they didn't know about those two noble girls. Last time, it was because of those two girls that the God World Emperor had personally attacked the fairy plane. That terrifying great Emperor Xiao He had even killed 2 ninth-grade Supremes and more than 100,000 powerhouses in the Dark Night plane. They dared to hide news of Yi Qinghan, but they really didn't dare to touch those two girls. If that great Emperor Xiao He attacked the fairy plane, it would be a catastrophe for the fairy plane. However, the two girls had clearly entered the Fey plane, and the Flying Phoenix was still floating outside the material plane. The Fey patrols had clearly seen the two humans enter the material plane, but when they looked for them, they couldn't find them at all. During that period of time, dozens of people had been teleported out of that material plane. They had already investigated and found out that there were indeed 2 unidentified girls. What made Yao Mu and Yao Concubine extremely strange was that these 2 girls could actually disguise themselves as the fairy race. Later, after asking the beast god, they learned that the 2 girls had learned a very mysterious secret technique, the Phantom of the Dark Night transformation. It could change their appearance and the attributes of their bodies. Now the 2 of them were even more anxious. Not only were they afraid that these 2 noble young ladies would be killed by the Fae, but they were also afraid that these 2 people would sneak into Yao Feier's palace. If they woke up Yi Qinghan would injure them in a fit of rage. Killing them was a small matter, but if they didn't care about the fairy plane, then it would be troublesome. Therefore, Yao Concubine stayed here to calm the beast god down while Yao Mu personally went to deal with this matter. However, it had been a few decades and they still hadn't found it. Even Yao Concubine was starting to feel afraid. Report. It was at this point that one of the demon folk flew in like lightning, his face a mask of terror. Trembling, he shouted, "Not good. Not good. That madman from the god world is here. He's already killed tens of thousands of people and he's on his way here. He says something happened to his daughter, and that he's going to wipe out the entire demon folk plane." What? Who is so daring? Yao Concubine was shocked. Her face was filled with killing intent as she looked at the beast god. The beast god was also startled. He grabbed the messenger and asked, "Is it a white-clothed young man? He can turn into a blue dragon and swallow martial artists?" Yes, but he didn't swallow. With just a glance he killed countless of our people. The messenger immediately nodded, his eyes filled with fear. The beast god's eyes revealed a look of ecstasy, but then he became incomparably nervous. He angrily shouted at Yao Concubine, "Great Emperor Xiaohe has left seclusion. This is bad. Yao Concubine, immediately take me to stop him. Send a message to Yao Mu and tell him to immediately find the two young ladies. Otherwise even I cannot stop Great Emperor Xiaohe. All life in your plane will be killed by him." Great Emperor Xiaohe. Yao Concubine's body trembled. She immediately sent a message to Yao Mu. She and the beast god were led by a scout squad, flying into the endless void. In the endless void, a white-robed man slowly flew forward. Although his speed was incomparably slow to the Fae around him, it was already terrifying. If your 9th grade supreme doesn't appear in half an incense stick's time, then this great emperor will directly slaughter his way to your Fae plane. Lei Jin naturally couldn't catch up to Xiaohe. Xiaohe hadn't completely gone berserk yet, so he flew to the Fae plane and began a massacre. After killing tens of thousands of patrolling Fae with a few glances, he immediately sent a message back. All the Fae felt a chill run down their spines. This great emperor of the divine realm was too terrifying. Although many of them didn't know who Xiaohe was, they had all heard of his vicious reputation. In particular, Xiaohe hadn't revealed the slightest bit of his aura, nor had he done anything. With just a few glances, tens of thousands of Fae immediately floated into the air, their divine crystals automatically flying out, and they immediately died. This sort of method caused even their souls to tremble. In less than half an incense stick's time, countless Fae flew over from the distance. The Fae all had wings. After reaching the God Emperor realm, they could form a strange air current around their body, allowing them to dodge the attacks of the space blade shattering current. Greetings, Demon Concubine Queen. When the Fae saw a beautiful woman at the forefront, they all breathed a sigh of relief and all knelt down to pay their respects. Great Emperor Xiaohe. The beast god and demon concubine stood side by side. When they saw Xiaohe in the distance, their withered bark-like old faces immediately glowed with a hint of spring. Their bodies turned into afterimages as they flew toward Xiaohe. Beast god? Where are Yao Yao and Zishi? Where's boss? When Xiaohe saw that it was the beast god, the killing intent in his eyes disappeared, and he immediately asked. The beast god hurriedly explained, Yao Yao and Zishi used the ghost transformation to disguise themselves as Fae. Right now they have sneaked into the Fae plane. Their people have been looking for them for dozens of years, but they still haven't found them. As for little Han, they said he's not in the Fae plane. Looking for them for dozens of years and still haven't found them? Xiaohe snorted coldly and didn't pay any more attention to the beast god. His gaze suddenly shot toward Demon Concubine. 2 golden rays of light flashed, and then Xiaohe's body turned into an afterimage. In the next second, he had already appeared in front of Demon Concubine. He easily stretched out a hand and grabbed Demon Concubine's snow-white neck. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he snorted in an extremely tyrannical manner. If even half a hair on my daughter and niece is lost, all of the Fae race will be buried with them. Hiss! Sounds of cold air being sucked in resounded in the field. Even the beast god was stunned. Demon Concubine was a 9th grade supreme martial artist, but she had actually been subdued by Xiaohe without even realizing it? Capturing alive and killing were 2 completely different definitions. Moreover, it was a head-on capture that Demon Concubine couldn't resist at all. Just what level had Xiaohe's strength reached? The beast god didn't even sense a trace of Xiaohe's aura. He felt like a strong man casually grabbing a baby, incomparably casual. The beast god was overjoyed, but he also became worried. He immediately flew over and sent a voice transmission. Xiaohe, don't be rash. We don't have the qualifications to attack the Fae plane. If Pan Xing decides to convict us, the immortal realm will be in trouble. Pan Xing? Xiaohe looked into the void in the distance and smiled with incomparable arrogance. He said faintly, Beast God, there's no need to say anything more. I only have my own opinion. Even if Pan Xing wants to kill me, it won't be that easy. Let's go. With that, Xiaohe didn't look at the beast god and the Fae anymore. His body turned into lightning and directly flew toward the Fae plane. The beast god's body trembled. It won't be easy for Pan Xing to kill him? At this moment, the beast god felt that he had lived for so many years in vain. His mind was in a mess. He didn't dare to think too much and immediately followed Xiaohe toward the Fae plane. All the Fae were scared silly, but no one dared to make a move. As they followed Xiaohei and the beast god toward the Fey Plain, they quickly used the Fey race's special communication method to send a message to the Fey Plain. Chapter 1430. What? Yao concubine was captured? Great Emperor Xiaohei from the divine world is flying towards the Fey Plain? Yao Mu was in the Fey Plain at this time. When he received the message from his subordinate, his face turned paler than his butt. His body trembled and he nearly fell to the ground. What should I do? What should I do? Yao Mu was completely frightened. Xiaohei's ferocious name had long resounded throughout the Fey Plain. He was a powerhouse whose strength was comparable to the great emperor of the divine world, and he was even more unreasonable than the great emperor of the divine world. He was a complete madman. The last time his daughter was captured, the Fey Plain had lost 3 ninth-grade supreme beings. Would another 3 die this time? Were there any other powerhouses in the Fey Plain? Find the king? Find the great emperor of the divine world? Yao Mu immediately dismissed this thought in his mind. If the great emperor of the divine world knew that he had concealed the fact that he was in the Fey Plain, he would not kill him. Even if he left in a rage, the Fey Plain would be attacked by the Bat blood race, and their plane would be finished. It didn't matter if he died, but the Fey could not be exterminated. It was just that, if he didn't find them, what if the great Emperor Xiaohei of the divine world could not find his daughter and began a massacre in the Fey Plain? Report. Just as Yao Mu was panicking and at a loss, a Fey flew in from outside and said happily, "King Yao Mu, you found them. Did you find the 2 young ladies from the divine world?" Found them? Where? It was as if Yao Mu had heard the sound of nature. He said in ecstasy, "Quick, take me there. Quick." They wanted to sneak into the king's palace, but they were discovered by the guards. They have been captured. That Fey immediately brought Yao Mu to Yao Fei's palace. Sure enough, they found a group of guards holding 2 female Fey captive. The 2 female Fey had faces full of anger as they glared at the people around them. Untie them, untie them. Who allowed you to beat people? Which bastard did it? Stand up." Yao Mu had the strength of a 9th-grade supreme being. His divine sense was extremely sharp, and he immediately discovered that the 2 were different from the Fey. He saw that their faces and bodies were covered in wounds. Thinking of Xiaohei's words, he immediately roared in anger. 3 7th-grade war gods of the demon clan immediately stood up and said, "King Yao Mu, these 2 were trying to sneak into the king's palace. It was the 3 of us who captured them. Tie them up. Tie them up. How could they treat our guests like this?" Yao Mu immediately sent out a slap, and the 3 of them were swept away. The guards immediately chased after the 3 people and tied them up. Yao Mu revealed a flattering smile. He turned to the 2 captured female Fey and softly said, "Are you 2 the demon devourer Yao and Miss Yizishi? Yao Mu has already taught them a lesson. I apologize to you." Sure enough, it was Yao Yao and Yizishi. Yao Yao rubbed her body and let out a muffled groan. She glared at Yao Mu and said, "Humph, at least you're sensible. Go and invite my uncle out. He's the emperor of the god realm. I want to see uncle. I know uncle is inside." Yao Mu's pupils shrank, but his expression didn't change as he said, "Great emperor of the divine realm? Why would the emperor of the god world be in the fairy plane? Miss, you must be joking." Don't try to deceive me." Yao Yao's quick-witted eyes turned and she proudly said, "We've been lurking in your plane for dozens of years. We've already investigated clearly. Tens of thousands of years ago, uncle and your king came to the fairy plane and finally entered this palace." Yao Mu laughed mischievously and suddenly transmitted his voice. "Ah, that's fake. Actually, the king and your emperor were impersonated by me. It was only to calm the army's morale. But about this, please don't tell anyone." Following that, Yao Mu didn't wait for the 2 of them to speak. His huge aura pressed down and lifted the 2 of them. He flew out of the plane and straight into the endless void. In the endless void, a white shadow streaked across the vast sky at a frightening speed. Behind him, the beast god madly chased after him. Behind him was a group of fairy clansmen. The fairy clansmen cultivated the laws of the wind and were originally fast, but compared to Xiaohei's beast god, they were simply not enough. The fairy plane was already in sight, but Xiaohei's body suddenly stopped. Thousands of kilometers ahead, countless fairy clansmen stood in the void. At the forefront was Yao Mu, who had a flattering smile on his face. Who else could it be but Yao Yao and Yizishi beside him? "Yao Yao, Zishi, come here." Xiaohei coldly swept his gaze over the fairy clansmen and finally landed on Yao Yao and Yizishi's faces. He revealed a doting expression. "Father. Uncle Xiaohei." Yao Yao and Yizishi's faces were full of joy when they saw that the pressure Yao Mu had enveloped them had disappeared. They immediately flew toward Xiaohe. They flew to Xiaohe's side, but the two of them were somewhat ashamed. They didn't dare to look at Xiaohe for fear that he would blame them. Beast God, come here. Bring the two of them into the Beast God Hall. Xiaohe didn't even look at the two of them. He directly shouted at the Beast God behind him. The Beast God was still hundreds of thousands of kilometers away. He immediately took out the Beast God Hall, flew over, and took the two girls into the Beast God Hall. Only then did Xiaohe look at the Yao concubine in his hands. His eyes were filled with faint killing intent. He said coldly, "Didn't you say that you couldn't find her after searching for decades? How did you find her now? Is it fun to lie to this emperor?" "No, no." The Yao concubine felt the cold killing intent in Xiaohe's eyes and cried out in fear. But just as she let out a sound, her pupils suddenly started to enlarge. Then her body started to soften. A resplendent and gorgeous divine crystal quietly flew out from her lower abdomen. Xiaohe then patted it and shot it into the Beast God's hands behind him. Oh, everyone was stunned. They were shocked by Xiaohe's method of killing people invisibly. They were shocked by Xiaohe's ruthlessness. Without saying a word, he easily crushed a 9th-grade supreme martial artist to death. "Xiaohe, don't be impulsive." The Beast God trembled and pinched his nose. It was unknown whether it was because he was nervous, excited, or afraid. Xiaohe didn't act impulsively. Otherwise, these people in front of him would all be dead. He fixed his gaze on the trembling Yao Mu and asked, "Where is my boss?" Xiaohe's question was very good. Just now, the Yao concubine had lied to him and ended up being crushed by him. Now he was asking Yao Mu. Yao Mu didn't dare to tell the truth. If he said that Yi Qinghan was in the fairy plane, wouldn't that be lying to him again? Yao Mu's eyes narrowed. He gritted his teeth and said, "My lord, the Emperor of the Realm of Gods is indeed not in the fairy plane. It's useless even if you kill all of us." "Huh? Do you really think that this Emperor doesn't dare to kill you?" Little Black's eyes were cold and gloomy. His eyes swept over all of the Fae. The tens of thousands of Fae powerhouses suddenly felt a bone-chilling cold envelop their bodies. They didn't even dare to breathe. All of them shivered as they looked at Little Black, clenching their teeth as they stubbornly endured. The atmosphere was incomparably dignified and tense. It was like a room filled with gas. As long as there was the slightest spark, there would be a huge explosion. The Beast God was very anxious. Although Xiaohe said that he could exchange a few blows with Pan Xing, the Beast God didn't dare to imagine what the consequences would be if he really faced Pan Xing. The realm of gods didn't have the qualifications to attack the fairy plane. It was fine to kill a few people like Yi Qinghan last time. If Xiaohe was angry and really wiped out all life in the fairy plane, it would definitely incur Pan Xing's wrath. At that moment, the Beast God's expression changed several times. Finally, he thought of a way and hurriedly transmitted his voice. "Xiaohe, don't worry about the matters here. Since Yao Yao and Xiaohe have returned safely, you should go back to the realm of gods first. Zhu Yi and the other 4 have led a team to the dimensional battlefield. It's very likely that they are all dead now. The realm of gods is about to be defeated. You should go to the dimensional battlefield immediately to save them." Chapter 1431. Planar Battlefield? The killing intent on Xiaohe's body abruptly vanished. Yi Qinghan was powerful, so Xiaohe had never been worried about his safety. The matter regarding the dimensional battlefield was indeed urgent. Xiaohe knew very well that when he was present during the last dimensional battlefield, so many people from the immortal world had died. Now that he was not around, it was very likely that Zhu Yi and the others would die in battle. Xiaohe did not care whether the others were dead or alive. But Zhu Yi and Ice Queen were Yi Qinghan's women, so Xiaohe had to pay attention. He asked right away, "I can still enter the planar battlefield?" "Of course you can. You can enter before the great battle. After the great battle, everyone will be teleported into the great battlefield. Even if you enter, it will be useless. There are still a few years left. We should be able to make it in time." The Beast God heaved a sigh of relief. If Xiaohe could return and enter the dimensional battlefield, not only would he be a great help to Zhu Yi and the others, but he would also be able to prevent himself from impulsively destroying the fairy dimension. "Alright then, I'll go back first and immediately enter the planar battlefield. You bring them back slowly." Xiaohe was always quick and decisive in his actions. He coldly glanced at the Fey powerhouses, causing them to tremble once more. Then, his body turned into an afterimage, vanishing in front of everyone in a second. Phew! After Xiaohe left, all of the Fey let out a sigh of relief, feeling as if they had just survived a calamity. Now even Yao Mu no longer had any hostility towards the immortal realm. Xiao He was simply too powerful. He was many times more powerful than Yao Fei, and Yi Qinghan. Yao Mu firmly believed that Xiao He could easily kill him with a single glance. It would be as easy as stepping on an ant. How could a martial artist cultivate to such a level? Could it be that he had a spiritual body of heaven like Yao Fei? Yao Mu couldn't figure it out, and he couldn't summon any will to fight either. Fortunately, Xiao He had left, and the beast god had also entered the war imperial palace and soared into the sky, returning to the immortal realm. You two girls, it's not that I want to scold you, but you know that I almost died because of you. Is it going to create a huge disaster? Yao Yao, don't you know your father's temper? If I hadn't used the dimensional war to pull your father back, the fairy plane would have been finished. Do you know that? The fairy plane is finished and the god world is finished. You don't know about Pan Xing, do you? That's the overseer of Plate Realm, the divine emperor supreme. He was the one who destroyed the 10 ancient races. How powerful are the 10 ancient eras clans? At that time, there were more than 29th grade supreme martial artists, and Zhurong's strength had also reached beyond 9th grade supreme martial artist. What was the ending? Total annihilation. No one survived. The god realm does not have the qualifications to attack the fairy plane. If your father had destroyed the fairy plane just now, Pan Xing would definitely be furious. Your father would have to bear the wrath of Pan Xing, and everyone in the god realm would have died. The beast god temple flew towards the demonic plane. Once the beast god entered, he immediately reprimanded the two girls. As the ancestor of Yi Qinghan, he was greatly respected by Yi Qinghan and had a very high status in the god realm. The two girls didn't dare to make a sound after being reprimanded. The beast god looked at the two frightened girls and felt that his words were too harsh. He shook his head and left after saying, "Think about it carefully. Come and talk to me after you've thought it through. Otherwise your mother will punish you when you return. I won't help you." Yao Yao and Yi Zishi were originally very nervous after being reprimanded by the beast god. They didn't expect the matter to be so serious. Hearing the beast god's last sentence, the two girls' eyes lit up at the same time. I won't help you. Didn't this mean that as long as the two of them admitted their mistakes with a good attitude, thought through the seriousness of the matter, and coaxed the beast god would help them when they returned? The beast god's position was unique. As long as she spoke, Li Shui, and fireworks wouldn't be punished too heavily, right? Even Yu Qingxing wouldn't speak again to punish them, right? Immediately, the two of them whispered to each other. Then they stayed in the beast god's side hall obediently and pretended to meditate in seclusion. 5 days later, the two of them walked into the main hall pitifully. With a plop, they knelt on the ground and cried bitterly as they began to admit their mistakes. They pretended to be very sincere, and the beast god didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The beast god saw that the two girls were crying more and more emotionally. It was earth-shattering. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, all right. I'll speak up for you when we return. However, confinement is unavoidable this time. Don't pretend to be pitiful in front of me. Thank you, Ancestor. I knew that Ancestor is the best. Yao Yao immediately smiled through her tears. Yizishi also stopped crying. The two of them, one on the left and one on the right, shook the beast god's arm affectionately. They looked very cute. You too. The beast god smiled bitterly and helplessly. Yizishi smiled sweetly. Her exquisite face was exactly the same as the fireworks. She was extremely beautiful. With a sigh she said, Ancestor, my father is in the Demoness plane. We almost found him, but he was captured in the end. What a pity. The beast god was smiling bitterly at first, but when he heard this, he immediately frowned and said in an extremely serious tone, Little Han is in the Demoness plane? You're not lying to me? Yao Yao's quick-witted eyes turned a few times. She continued, Of course I'm not lying to you. We used the ghost transformation to hide in the Demoness plane for several decades and investigated everything clearly. That 9th grade supreme martial artist from the Demoness race still wanted to lie to us. At that time, their king and uncle returned to the Demoness plane together and shook the Demoness plane. Countless people witnessed it. How could such a big matter be concealed? That bastard Yao Mu, he deceived me so bitterly. After listening to what Yao Yao and Yi Zishi had seen and heard all these years, the beast god stood up in a violent rage. His withered face trembled, and his killing intent was awe-inspiring. I'll send you to the Dark Night plane first, then I'll immediately go to the Demoness plane. If Yao Mu dares to stop me again, I'll tear him apart. This time I'll definitely find little Han. The beast god paced back and forth in the main hall. After a moment he made a decision. No matter what the reason was, since he knew Yi Qinghan's confirmed location, he had to go see him. The Beast Divine Palace streaked across the sky and rushed to the Dark Night Plain at the fastest speed possible. A month later they arrived at the Dark Night Plain. The Beast God threw Yao Yao and Yi Zishi into the Dark Night Plain and had Xiang Di immediately escort them back to the Immortal Realm. Then he controlled the Beast Divine Palace and flew toward the Demoness Plain. The Immortal Realm was already in complete chaos. The Beast God went to the Demoness Plain and had Lei Jin keep watch. Then Lei Jin went to the Demoness Plain and had Yao Ji keep watch. Xiao He furiously killed his way to the Demoness Plain. The Immortal Realm didn't have an expert with enough weight to keep watch, so everyone was anxious and panicked. Then the most frightening thing happened. In the Heavenly Awakening continent, the people of the Mo clan hurried to the Supreme Island. Their faces were filled with grief and fear as they told Yao Ji something. Mo Shanghuang's soul jade slip had shattered. The monarch of the Heavenly Awakening continent, Mo Shanghuang, was dead. A few days later, a group of people came out of the Beast Divine Realm. Their heads were all wrapped in white cloth, and their faces were filled with grief. Yi Feihu's soul jade slip had also shattered. Yi Feihu was dead. The entire Immortal Realm was shocked. Mo Shanghuang had just broken through to 9th grade Supreme Martial Artist, and Yi Feihu had broken through to 9th grade Supreme Martial Artist many years ago. The Immortal Realm had lost 2 9th grade Supreme Martial Artists at once. What had happened in the plain battlefield? What kind of blame was the Immortal Realm's army suffering? No one knew, but countless people were extremely terrified. The great emperor wasn't here, and Emperor Xiao He wasn't here. There wasn't a single expert keeping watch in the Immortal Realm. Everyone was very afraid. Before long, Emperor Xiao He finally returned, and everyone felt a little more at ease. However, when Xiao He heard that Yi Feihu and Mo Shanghuang were dead, he immediately slapped the Star Sea's seawater hundreds of thousands of meters high. Then, without saying a word, he had Yao Ji teleport him into the plain battlefield with boundless killing intent. The people of the Immortal Realm were on tenterhooks again. Emperor Xiao He had such a temperament. Although his strength had become extremely terrifying, so terrifying that it was beyond everyone's imagination. Who knew what would happen if he entered the plain battlefield with such an awe-inspiring killing intent? Chapter 1432. Why? An extremely puzzled voice suddenly rang out in the War Emperor Palace. Yi Qinghan's expression was solemn, his eyes filled with confusion and doubt. Why is there a bottleneck in the ultimate mystery of fire? They are all basic elemental mysteries, but metal, wood, water, and earth don't have any bottlenecks. Why is there a bottleneck in the ultimate mystery of fire? This doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. This time, Yi Qinghan's comprehension speed of the laws of fire was faster than ever, but something strange happened. He was stuck at the last step. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth. These were the 5 basic elemental laws, the most basic elements of the world. In ancient China, the 5 elements reinforced and restrained each other, forming a cycle of reincarnation. Yi Qinghan had a very strange feeling in his heart. As long as he could comprehend the 5 elements, his strength would undergo an earth-shattering change. Now that he was stuck at the last step, why wasn't he anxious? Should I train in the Tao of Heaven? After thinking about it for a few days, Yi Qinghan still couldn't figure it out. In the end, he decisively gave up and set his sights on the supreme secret Tao of Heaven. The Tao of Heaven takes from surpluses and makes up for deficiencies. Thus, the void triumphs over the real, and the deficiency triumphs over the excess. The meaning is profound, the logic is profound, and the meaning is profound. The division of heaven and earth, the alignment of yin and yang, the appearance of change, the omens of life and death, the same as the ruins, the same without planning, the same without making an appointment, the same with the bright and 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 the same. If the secrets of the heavens are revealed, the profound knowledge. Yi Qinghan opened the Heavenly Tao's secret technique scroll and carefully read it. The secret technique didn't seem very complicated to Yi Qinghan. After reading it a few times, he easily understood it. After understanding it, Yi Qinghan's brows furrowed as he muttered to himself. Slowly, he closed his eyes and naturally entered a meditative state. Unbeknownst to Yi Qinghan, his body suddenly lit up with a gentle radiance. The radiance grew brighter and brighter until the entire side hall was lit up. The dazzling radiance caused the stone tablets in the side hall to be unable to be seen clearly. All that could be seen was a sheet of golden light. Boom. After Yi Qinghan went into seclusion for a month, the War Emperor Palace suddenly trembled. The space was shaken, and the 2 people who were in seclusion were shaken out. What happened? The Bloodbat tribe is attacking? Yao Fei was startled awake, but the first thing she saw was Yi Qinghan floating in the air. His entire body was like a true Buddha, and he glowed with a golden light. The aura emanating from his body caused her to feel an immense pressure, and she felt that he could not be defeated. The beast god and Yao Mu in the palace also looked at Yi Qinghan, who was in midair with their mouths wide open. After the beast god sent the two of them back to the Dark Night Plane, he immediately rushed to the fairy plane at full speed. Without wasting any time, he headed straight for the fairy plane. Yao Mu wanted to stop him, but the beast deity only said, "You dare to stop me? Tell Great Emperor Xiaohe to come and exterminate the fairy race immediately." Yao Mu immediately withered, and he obediently followed the beast god to Yao Fei's palace. Xiaohe completely scared Yao Mu out of his wits. If he continued to be stubborn, the fairy race might be exterminated before the Bloodbat tribe could even attack. Moreover, the beast god was not weaker than him. Even if he wanted to stop him, it would be very difficult. In the end, the space shook and the two people out. However, Yi Qinghan's appearance scared the three of them. What was Yi Qinghan cultivating? Why didn't the space shake wake him up? He was even emitting such a terrifying aura and golden light. Had he become a Buddha and a true god? The three of them looked for a while, but they could not see anything. Yao Fei woke up with a start, but she did not dare to disturb Yi Qinghan. She glanced at Yao Mu and the beast god before walking into a side palace. After entering the side palace, Yao Fei nodded at the beast god in a friendly manner before saying, "Yao Mu, what happened? The Bloodbat tribe did not attack? Where is the Yao concubine? This is someone from the god realm. Did something happen in the god realm?" The beast god coldly snorted, not saying anything. Yao Mu fell to his knees, his face bitter. "My Majesty, Yao Mu has sinned. The Yao concubine is dead? The Yao concubine is dead? What happened?" Yao Fei was startled. Although she did not have any feelings for Yao Fei she was still a supreme powerhouse of the fairy race. "My Majesty, Yao Mu has sinned. You had me send a message to the god realm. I thought that the Bloodbat tribe would immediately attack, so..." Yao Mu knew that he had been exposed and there was no way to hide it. He could only tell the truth. Because the beast god was here, he did not dare to say a single lie. "Bastard. The Yao concubine was killed by an idiot like you." The more Yao Fei heard, the uglier her expression became. Finally, she shot out a wind blade that smashed Yao Mu away, creating a large hole in the palace wall. "Ridiculous. What a joke." The beast god suddenly spoke. He looked resentfully at Yao Mu, who was vomiting blood, and said, "The Bloodbat tribe participated in the last dimensional war. The people who participated in the dimensional war came back and said that the Bloodbat tribe suffered heavy losses, and their army was almost completely wiped out. Because you were worried that the fairy plane would be destroyed, you purposely deceived Mother Arch. Do you know how many people died in the last dimensional war because the Arch did not participate? Nearly 1 million of the most elite Yi family soldiers died, and countless monarch-level powerhouses died. Decades ago, the planar war started again, but the great emperor was still unaware of it. If all of our experts die in the planar war this time, the great emperor will definitely be furious and kill everyone in your plane." Yao Fei panicked. She did not expect that the divine realm would suffer such a huge loss because of Yao Mu's foolish decision. She was a pure person. She had forced Yi Qinghan to stay. If Yi Qinghan found out that so many people had died in the divine realm, she did not dare to imagine how furious Yi Qinghan would be. "Why don't I go and wake up your the Arch now and return immediately?" Yao Fei cried out helplessly. "Please don't." Yao Fei's words frightened the beast god. He hurriedly said, "Didn't you see that my the Arch is cultivating? Furthermore, such a phenomenon has occurred. Perhaps this is the most important moment of his cultivation. Just wait. The Arch Xiaohe has probably already gone to the dimensional war. You better pray that they are safe in the dimensional war this time." "All right. I will wait for him to come out of seclusion. I will take full responsibility for Yao Mu's mistakes. Whether he wants to beat or kill me, I will accept it." Yao Fei said through gritted teeth. She entered the main hall and sat down in front of Yi Qinghan. Then she sat cross-legged and began to cultivate. The beast god went in to take a look. In the end, he felt a little awkward sitting with Yao Fei, so he retreated. He closed his eyes in the side hall and waited for Yi Qinghan to wake up. Yi Qinghan did not cultivate in seclusion for too long. A year was not enough. The halo around his body gradually faded, and his eyes suddenly opened. He stood in midair and muttered to himself in a daze, "That's strange. Why was my comprehension of the heavenly Tao mystic technique so smooth? I'm about to achieve phenomenal success. But I'm still stuck at the last moment? Strange. This is really strange. What? You're about to achieve phenomenal success in the Heavenly Tao Mystic Technique? Yao Fei had already woken up when Yi Qinghan opened his eyes. When she heard him talking about the Heavenly Tao Mystic Technique, she immediately opened the restrictions of the main hall. At the same time, her aura surged and enveloped the entire room. This was to prevent outsiders from hearing the supreme Heavenly Tao Mystic Technique. When she heard Yi Qinghan's words, she asked in disbelief, "The Arch of the Divine Realm, are you sure that you have already cultivated the Heavenly Tao Mystic Technique to phenomenal success?" "Of course. Why would I lie to you?" Yi Qinghan was clearly still in a state of confusion as he answered subconsciously. Yao Fei shook her head, still in disbelief. "How is that possible? You are not an ethereal body of heaven. There is no way you can cultivate the Heavenly Tao Mystic Technique. This is what the first sentence of the first scroll of the Heavenly Tao Mystic Technique says. You are not an ethereal body of heaven. There's such a thing? No wonder you were so straightforward when you gave me the Heavenly Tao Mystic Technique." Yi Qinghan was speechless. Yao Fei had opened the restrictions, but he was still confused about the ultimate law of fire and the stuck Heavenly Tao Mystic Technique. He was not in the mood to use his divine sense to scan the surroundings. The beast god was in the side hall, but he did not even notice. He thought for a moment and sighed. It's one thing for the ultimate law of fire to be stuck, but the Heavenly Tao Mystic Technique is also stuck. Is this darn heavens purposely making things difficult for me? Yao Fei, help me think of a way to break through the bottleneck. This young master hates bottlenecks the most. If I am stuck for tens of thousands of years or even hundreds of thousands of years, my head will explode. A way. Yao Fei's eyes lit up. She lowered her head and muttered to herself for a long time. Then she suddenly raised her head. Her face was as red as fire, and even her ears and neck were red. Her watery eyes were filled with embarrassment. She stared at Yi Qinghan for a long time. Finally, under his astonished gaze, she tugged at the robe around her waist, revealing a snow-white body that made one's blood boil. She closed her eyes and her breathing quickened. She bit her lips and said in a voice that only mosquitoes could hear, "I can help you break through the Heavenly Tao Mystic Technique's bottleneck. That is, I want Fei. Has the ethereal body of heaven, and I can transfer the ethereal chi of heaven to you. However, you must promise me that you will protect Fei, and the Fei plane in the future." This. Yi Qinghan swallowed and rubbed his hands together. He was a little hesitant, but his gaze swept over Yao Fei's perfect body. Finally, he looked at Yao Fei and said reluctantly, "Are you sure you can help me break through? If I can't break through, this young master will suffer a great loss." Chapter 1433. Greetings, Great Emperor Xiaohe. The teleportation formation in the lava canyon suddenly lit up, scaring the millions of celestial world soldiers, Jida, and the others. When they saw a figure in snow-white robes proudly appear in the teleportation formation, their bodies began to tremble, and they all dropped to their knees to kowtow. "Why are you here? Where is Ice Queen Zhui? Jida, come over and talk." Xiaohe's eyes were like lightning, and his body was filled with killing intent. Yi Feihu and Emo Shanghuang were dead, and Xiaohe was completely enraged. If anything happened to Zhu Yi and Ice Queen, Yi Qinghan would be extremely sad when he returned. Xiaohe didn't want Yi Qinghan to be sad the most. So, whoever wanted Zhu Yi and Bing Meier's lives had to step over his Xiaohe's corpse. "Xiaohe, there in the Demon Mountain. Ice Queen Zhu Yi asked me to lead everyone to stand guard here and wait for the final battle. Xiaohe, the Supreme God Emperor, changed the rules for this dimensional war again. Our 8 planes must accumulate 10 million points to win." "Penxing?" Xiaohe's eyes turned even colder, and he looked at the sky in the distance. He humphed coldly, "Penxing, right? You better not force me. Otherwise, even if you are a Supreme God Emperor, I will twist your head off." Hiss. Jida, a few 9th-grade overlords and the millions of celestial world soldiers shivered, and they looked at Xiaohe in disbelief. Who knew that Xiaohe's body would turn into a shadow, and he would disappear in front of everyone's eyes? In the next second he appeared on the Demon Mountain. This? Jida's lips trembled and he looked around in fear. He shrunk his neck and he felt his body turn cold. He looked at the people around him and he realized that many of them had pale faces, and they were terrified. Great Emperor Xiaohe actually dared to say that he would twist Penxing's head off in the dimensional war? Was he going to defy the heavens? Everyone looked at each other and looked at the sky. For some reason they had a feeling that something big was about to happen, something earth-shattering. In the passageway of the Devil Mountain, three figures were madly fleeing for their lives. The three of them were in an incomparably miserable state like stray dogs. Their faces were filled with despair. Behind the three of them were 7 to 8 strong beasts that chased them crazily. If it wasn't for Ice Queen scattering snow to slow down the speed of the beasts, the three of them who were injured would have been caught and ripped into pieces. There's a teleportation formation in the passage ahead on the left. Quick, 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 Zhui roared. Her hair was disheveled and her voice was hoarse. Her face and body were covered in blood, and she no longer had the noble temperament of a queen. The eyes of Hidden Ruler and Ice Queen, who were also covered in blood, lit up. They sped up and turned into 3 streaks of red lightning that dashed forwards. F***ck, they escaped. It's a pity to kill one. A divine world plane? Next time we meet them we will kill them all. The beasts behind started to roar. They could actually speak human language. These beasts were like giant mammoths. They had a single horn on their heads and their heads were really huge. Their limbs were thick and strong and they walked like the wind. They were like heavy tanks and were really terrifying. In the other tunnel, Zhu Yi and Ice Queen exchanged glances with one another. Their eyes were filled with despair. Zhu Yi was shocked and she kept on shaking her head and muttering, "Impossible? It's impossible for them to continuously face experts? This doesn't make sense, this doesn't make sense." There were still a few years left and Zhu Yi was sure to surrender. She was prepared to stay here for a few years, teleport to the battlefield, and defend for a month before surrendering right away. Who knew? They didn't even stay for half a year before the dragon men coincidentally found them. The 5 of them started to flee. Then, coincidentally, they started to encounter powerful planes that were defeated one after another. Mo Shanghuang died when he fought with the spiritual beings. A few days ago, Yi Feihu was smashed into pieces by the destructive power of the mammoth beast race to save Zhu Yi. In a short time, they actually faced 4 strong armies. This wasn't normal, it was really not normal. A poignant smile appeared on Zhu Yi's face. The moment Yi Feihu sacrificed his life to save her, her heart was already broken. She was already dead. She looked at the dark tunnel in a daze. She didn't even have the strength to run anymore. Blood flowed, but she didn't care. Her lips were filled with bitterness and she didn't say a word. She was as silent as a corpse. "Zhu Yi, you have to pull yourself together. We still have the Emperor. We still have Xiaohei, we won't lose." Ice Queen's heart ached as she used God power to heal Zhu Yi. She said softly. Her voice was really soft but it was really firm. "Emperor." Zhu Yi's eyes lit up and a sweet smile appeared on her face. However, it slowly dimmed down. "It is useless, it is useless. Pan Xing wants to play us to death, he wants to play our 8 planes to death. This time, none of us will be able to walk out. All of us will die, all of us will die, ha." This? The hidden sovereign's bloodied face was filled with shock as he looked at the deranged Zhu Yi. Thinking about it, along with the weird things that happened during the last few planar wars, he felt that what Zhu Yi said made sense. Ice Queen thought back to the last planar war. The God World army was suddenly surrounded and attacked by a few planes. She also thought back to how they faced so many strong armies. Once or twice, maybe it was a coincidence, but now they faced it 4 times in a row. The tunnels within Demon Mountain were really complicated, so how could they face them so easily? Pan Xing. Ice Queen thought about a person. She leaned on the wall powerlessly and muttered this suffocating name. Since ancient times, if the ruler wanted the subject to die, the subject had to die. If the God Emperor wanted you to die, could you live alone? Zhu Yi and Ice Queen didn't know, but they both thought about a person. A thin body, a warm smile. The 2 of them started to call out a name. Emperor. Let's go. Half a day later, the 3 of them were leaning against the wall of the passageway, so weak that they looked as if they had passed out. Zhu Yi's eyes snapped open, and with a shout, the 3 of them turned into 3 bolts of lightning that shot toward the other end of the passageway. At the end of the passageway, many gusts of wind stealthily flew over, condensing into 6 monsters in the air. They looked incredibly ugly and did not have limbs. They looked like round balls and had 3 eyes, but they were white and did not have pupils. One of the monsters laughed sinisterly and gave out a hair-raising voice. 3 grade 9 supreme martial artists, Kiki, kill, kill, kill. The 6 monsters cried out at the same time. Their bodies turned into the wind and they were terrifyingly quick as they chased Zhu Yi and the others. They're so quick. My ice element attacks are useless against them. What about Zhu Yi? Ice Queen dashed while releasing ice attacks. However, the back of the tunnel was about to be frozen while the few streaks of wind were fine. Both sides were getting closer and closer. Without needing Ice Queen to say anything, Zhu Yi had sensed it with her divine sense. She didn't say a word and continued to dash for hundreds of thousands of miles. Both sides were tens of thousands of miles apart, and in just a moment they would catch up. Zhu Yi's body suddenly stopped in an underground square. She sighed helplessly. Her face was calm as she shook her head. Stop running. You can't run anymore. Prepare to fight to the death. Even if I die, I will drag one of you down with me. Okay, fight to the death. The hidden ruler also stopped and stood side by side with Zhu Yi. His face was calm and his eyes were filled with madness. Let's fight. Ice Queen stopped helplessly. Pan Xing wanted them to die, so who could save them? Emperor Mei-er is going to die before you. Ice Queen frowned and a sweet smile appeared at the corner of her lips. When she raised her head, her eyes were filled with determination. The aura around her body started to climb. The three of them were calm and relaxed like they had been freed. They were prepared to go all out and fight to the death. Chapter 1434. Hehe, you're not running anymore? Run, continue to run. Several gusts of wind blew over and condensed into 6 monsters in the underground square. 18 pupilless white eyes stared at Zhu Yi and the other 2 and laughed eerily. Their mouths were wide open, revealing many red tongues and dark green fangs. Soul ball beasts. Their soul attacks are extremely terrifying. We won't be able to survive. Kill as many as you can. Zhu Yi's gaze was sinister. The moment the 6 monsters formed, he immediately gave the order to attack. His aura surged. His blood-stained white robe and black hair danced in the wind. His expression was cold. From afar he looked like a blood demon. 1,000-layer wave whizzed out. Countless ice arrows formed in mid-air. Countless flying knives shot out from the back of the hidden king. A cold wind blew in the entire underground square, and the nearby passageways trembled slightly. Cracks that looked like scars appeared in the space, and the atmosphere in the square was extremely oppressive. The 3 ninth-grade supreme martial artists attacked at the same time. Their target was the soul ball beast at the front. Hehe, you still want to struggle? Brothers, attack. The soul ball beast that was attacked didn't show any signs of fear. It didn't retreat at all. It let out a weird cry. 18 white eyes without pupils lit up at the same time. However, no light pillars shot out. It only caused the space to shake. Bung! The terrifying ice spikes and flying knives in midair suddenly, all collapsed. Ice Queen and the Hidden King held their heads at the same time and rolled on the ground. 6 soul ball beasts that were good at soul attacks attacked one person. Ice Queen and the Hidden King, whose soul wasn't strong, couldn't even hurt the enemy. Zhu Yi's soul was the strongest. Although his soul ocean was about to be messed up, he still gritted his teeth and controlled the 1,000-layer wave to smash down. Pung! 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 The 1,000-layer wave was more terrifying with each layer. It smashed onto the soul ball beast and the surrounding walls. Instantly, the entire underground square shook. Black mud and stones flew everywhere. The soul ball beast at the front spat out blood and flew backward. However, just as the 1,000-layer wave was about to attack the other 5 soul ball beasts, Zhu Yi finally couldn't take it anymore. He held his head and knelt down. His face was twisted, but he gritted his teeth and didn't roll on the ground. Zhu Yi's soul was in a mess. Of course, she could no longer control the 1,000-layered waves. The 1,000-layered waves collapsed in an instant and the tables were turned. The soul ball beast that was sent flying was a huge ball covered in dark red blood. It flew up and its white pupilless eyes were filled with killing intent. It fiercely cursed, F***, you actually dared to injure me? Continue to attack. I want their souls to completely collapse and die. Let their souls scatter and disappear from this world forever. The space shook and many soul attacks were sent out. Ice Queen and Hidden Ruler rolled even more intensely on the ground. Zhu Yi finally couldn't take it anymore and rolled on the ground. Hehe, die, all of you die. Give up. Don't resist. Only death awaits you. Hehe, to be able to die in the hands of the noble soul ball beasts, you should feel honored. The 6 soul ball beasts happily flew around in midair, continuously sending out soul attacks. Their mouths opened wide and spat out a foul smell. Within their white pupilless eyes, one could actually see a hint of cruelty. It was obvious that killing 3 grade 9 supreme martial artists made them extremely happy. They won't feel honored. You can't kill them either. To be able to die in the hands of this emperor, you should feel honored. A cold voice suddenly rang out, scaring the 6 soul ball beasts. Their soul attack stopped abruptly. Zhu Yi and the other 2 immediately stopped rolling, but they still held their heads. However, at this moment, the eyes of the 3 were no longer cloudy and confused. Instead, they became extremely clear and bright. Who is it? Scram out. The six-soul ball beasts scanned with their divine senses. However, they didn't notice anyone or any aura of an expert. Just as they were prepared to continue sending out soul attacks to kill Zhu Yi and the other two, the six-soul ball beasts trembled. They turned around at the same time and looked behind them. In the dim tunnel behind them, a white figure suddenly appeared. His face couldn't be seen clearly. What was extremely eye-catching was a pair of cold eyes. A pair of eyes filled with murderous intent. The six-soul ball beasts were extremely horrified to find that their bodies couldn't move. They could only watch as the white-robed young man walked over slowly. He reached out a hand, a slender hand, and directly grabbed into their bodies. Then he directly crushed their divine crystals. It was as easy as crushing a few ants to death. Is he still a martial artist? Could he be a divine emperor supreme martial artist? Pan Xing? Before the six-soul ball beast's consciousness disappeared, this question still lingered in their minds. 6 pairs of eyes that were like those of dead fish were wide open. They died with grievances. Of course, the white-robed man wasn't Pan Xing. It was Xiao He who rushed over. He easily crushed the six-soul ball beast to death. His body floated forward and he shouted coldly, "Explode!" The bodies of the 6-soul ball beasts without divine crystals exploded. There wasn't a single drop of blood or flesh splattered. They actually turned into nothingness. It seems like I didn't come too late. Xiao He looked at Zhu Yi, Ice Queen and Hidden Ruler, who stood up with much difficulty. A smile appeared on his dark and sunken face. Zhu Yi wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and smiled bitterly. "You are indeed not late, but you really shouldn't have come." Xiao He's brow rose up. "Why?" Ice Queen and Hidden Ruler smiled bitterly and shook their heads helplessly. Zhu Yi raised her head and closed her eyes in pain. Her body trembled slightly. After a long while, she opened her mouth and said, "Pan Xing wants to play us to death. Since you came in, you will only die. So, should you come in?" "Pan Xing?" Xiao He's pupils constricted and his fighting spirit rose. He grinned, "Then let's play. Who knows who will die?" "Play you to death? I want to play you to death." "Ah." At the peak of Mount Pan, a sinister voice rang out, reverberating in the empty Mount Pan. Pan Xing's face was filled with a teasing expression. He looked around Demon Mountain and felt really delighted. Pan Shi had left to find Pan Huang, so he didn't have anything to worry about. Of course, he also wanted to find the person who broke through the barrier in the shortest time possible. Therefore, he was prepared to toy with the people of these 8 planes to death. He used restrictions to secretly change the passageways within Mount Pan, causing the experts of the countless planes to constantly encounter the experts of these 8 planes, causing the experts of these 8 planes to kill each other. He didn't believe it. When all the experts from the 8 planes were about to die, that person would continue to hide. The moment he revealed his strength, he would attack and rip him into pieces. Pan Xing stared at the experts from the 8 planes. Of course, Pan Xing was aware of Little Black's arrival and his words. The mocking expression on his face became even more intense as he smiled and said, "Aberration born from the slaughter god Saber, do you still want to play with me? Don't be anxious. Once I find this person, I will naturally play with you. Let's have some fun." Ah. Chapter 1435. This is the Holy Spirit Chi? Why does it feel so similar to the power of frost? This kind of power is above all other powers. The Holy Spirit body is really amazing. Yi Qinghan was extremely amazed as he sensed the special power that was coming from Yao Feier's body. Within this coiling world, every type of power was ranked. The power of space, the power of darkness, the power of light, and so on. However, his power of cold was much stronger than these powers. Now, Yi Qinghan had finally discovered a new kind of power that was even stronger than the power of space and the like. Holy Spirit Chi. The mysterious power contained within the Holy Spirit body. Yao Fei'er was afraid that Yi Qinghan would vent his anger on the fairy plane because of Yao Mu's mistake, or because of that inexplicable feeling in his heart. She resolutely chose to appear before Yi Qinghan and gave most of the Holy Spirit Chi in her body to Yi Qinghan to help him break through the bottleneck of the heavenly Tao mystic technique. Yi Qinghan's strength had won her over. Yi Qinghan's abnormal speed in comprehending the heavenly Tao mystic technique had also won her over. She was very clear that she would never be able to defeat Yi Qinghan in this lifetime. The fairy race valued chastity the most. She had been touched by Yi Qinghan. Unless she killed Yi Qinghan, she could only marry him. Otherwise she could only die. Clearly Yao Fei'er did not want to die. She had chosen to marry Yi Qinghan. Just as Yi Qinghan was still marveling at the mysterious power in his body, a white hand that was as white as ivory reached out from behind him. Then, a beautiful face with a hint of charm climbed onto his shoulder. Her face was full of sweetness. Her bare shoulder was round and fair, and it gave off an alluring glow. Yao Feier's eyebrows were full of charm. She opened her tiny mouth and said gently, "Husband, what are you thinking about? Hurry up and break through the heavenly Tao bottleneck." "All right." Yi Qinghan got rid of the soft and comfortable feeling on his back and immediately went into a meditative state. He began to break through the bottleneck with all his might. His body lit up again, becoming brighter and brighter. It was so bright that there was only golden light left in the hall, and nothing else could be seen. Yao Fei looked at Yi Qinghan with no hint of shock. There was only a deep sense of love in her eyes. She stood up, grabbed a long robe and covered her perfect body with it. After that, she simply helped Yi Qinghan put on his clothes. Her actions were extremely skillful, just like a well-behaved wife. Time passed bit by bit. 2 years had passed. The beast god outside was burning with anxiety. Yao Feier's restrictions and her powerful strength made it impossible for him to enter the main palace. He continuously smashed his body against the palace walls, but only the light of the restrictions lit up. 89 years had passed since the planar war. Lei Zhen also came, bringing the latest news from the immortal realm. When he heard that Mo Shanghuang, the night-flying tiger, had died in battle, the beast god's heart was bleeding. When he heard that Xiao He had entered the planar war with a boundless killing intent, the beast god was completely flustered. He had a very bad premonition. Something earth-shattering might happen in this planar war. The immortal realm's army might be wiped out. If Yi Qinghan didn't come out of seclusion, everything would be over. Swish. At this thought, the beast god became even more anxious. He waved his hands and formed a huge mutated beast. The moment the mutated beast appeared, the roof of the side palace he was in immediately exploded. Immortal realm sovereign, don't be rash. If you do this, the king's palace will be completely destroyed by you. Yao Mu was alarmed by the side, but he didn't dare to stop the beast god. Boom. Before Yao Mu could finish speaking, a huge force suddenly came from the main palace. Yao Feier's incomparably huge palace instantly turned into dust. The force that caused Yao Mu to tremble and bow in worship easily shattered the mutated beast formed by the beast god. The beast god and Yao Mu were also sent flying tens of thousands of meters away. A huge mushroom cloud rose into the sky. Dust and stone fragments flew everywhere in the sky. Within the mushroom cloud, a golden light shot into the sky. The golden light didn't just illuminate the sky of the fairy plain. It also rushed out of the endless void, causing the void within a radius of millions of kilometers to become incomparably dazzling. Boom. In the sky above the fairy plain, countless auspicious clouds suddenly appeared, covering the sky of the fairy plain. Hundreds of huge purple lightning bolts surged inside, roaring soundlessly. The aura coming from inside caused all the fairy tribe members to prostrate on the ground and bow in worship. This. Yao Mu's eyes widened even more than a cow's. He had never seen such a terrifying phenomenon in his life. Moreover, that golden light could actually directly penetrate the protection of the source power outside. In the distance, the beast god looked at the sky in a daze. His old face was already streaming with tears, and he cried out involuntarily, "This phenomenon is 100 times more terrifying than Little Han comprehending the path of supreme martial artist. It seems that Little Han's breakthrough this time is very big, and the world is shaking. I wonder how his current strength compares to Xiao Hei's?" A figure suddenly rose from the ruins of the palace. He was dressed strangely. He was only wearing a robe and half of his body was exposed to bulging muscles. His face was calm, without any fluctuation of emotion. His body emitted a golden light, making people look down on his true body. But one could clearly see a pair of eyes. A pair of eyes just like Xiao Hei's, as deep as the sea, as if it were the endless void. Hundreds of purple lightning bolts crashed down, smashing into Yi Qinghan's body. Yi Qinghan didn't react in the slightest. His eyes were still looking up at the sky, his hands clasped behind his back, and he allowed the most terrifying power of the world to baptize him. Disperse. After a long while, the purple lightning finally stopped, and Yi Qinghan suddenly spoke. He waved his hand lightly, and the countless auspicious clouds in the sky actually dispersed. No one dared to say anything or even make the slightest sound. At this moment, even the wind stopped blowing, and only the countless pairs of eyes below were left with different expressions. "This is my Yao Feier's peerless husband." Yao Fei stood in the ruins, her face filled with sweetness and love. In the span of one night, she had transformed from a young girl into a young woman, as if she had become a completely different person. I finally completely comprehended the Tao of Heaven. The color of the power of cold changed again, and it was infinitely close to becoming transparent. My strength has become many times more powerful. However, it's a pity that I still haven't broken through the fire element. There are no black holes or spatial saber streams in the cold realm, and most importantly, there's no origin chi of heaven and earth. A sigh flashed across Yi Qinghan's eyes that were as deep as the sea. He had originally thought that his comprehension of the Tao of Heaven had reached great accomplishment, and his Tao of Nature had been perfected, so the cold realm would undergo an earth-shattering change. Unexpectedly, the cold realm hadn't changed much. There were still 3 things that he had yet to accomplish that gave him the greatest headache: black holes, spatial saber streams, and origin chi of heaven and earth. Without black holes and spatial saber streams, the space in the cold realm couldn't be considered complete. Most importantly, without origin chi of heaven and earth, the cold realm was dead and could never become alive. Little Han, don't be so conflicted. If you continue to be conflicted, the immortal realm will be finished. Just as Yi Qinghan was still dazzlingly deep in thought in midair, the roar of the beast god sounded. Yi Qinghan raised an eyebrow, and his eyes suddenly turned toward the beast god like knives. His expression darkened, and he instantly teleported over. Ancestor? Why have you come? What happened in the immortal realm? Yi Qinghan stared at the beast god. Although his expression was still calm, his tone was clearly urgent. Little Han, you don't know, but after you left, something big happened in the immortal realm. Within 20,000 years, Pan Xing started 2 planar wars. The beast god quickly recounted the events of these years to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's expression became colder as he spoke. In the end, when the beast god said that Xiao He had charged into the planar wars with killing intent, Yi Qinghan suddenly slammed his palm down in rage. Boom! Down below, a massive mountain peak that was hundreds of thousands of meters high was directly smashed into powder by Yi Qinghan, razing it to the ground. Countless Fey clansmen nearby turned into frightened birds and beasts as they fled in all directions. However, it was clear that Yi Qinghan had no intention of harming them. Otherwise, any city that he struck would have been turned into dust. No one dared to make the slightest sound. The beast god also didn't speak. He looked nervously at Yi Qinghan, waiting for the decision of the Emperor of the Immortal Realm. How long has this planar war been going on? After a long while, Yi Qinghan finally spoke. His voice was emotionless, but it caused the billions of Yao tribesmen to feel a chill from the depths of their souls. The beast god immediately said, "There are 8 more months to the final battle." Yi Qinghan nodded, and the tense muscles on his face relaxed slightly. His eyes that were as deep as the sea flashed, and he spoke in an extremely resolute and unquestionable tone. Return to the immortal realm immediately, and transfer all the disciples and tribesmen to the fairyland plain. Yao Fei, immediately arrange for the people who have come over to be dispersed to the fairyland material plane. Elder, remember, it's everyone, including you. All right. The beast god said through gritted teeth. After a moment of silence, he still couldn't help but ask, Xiao He has evolved, and your strength has also increased several-fold. You still don't have the confidence to defeat him? No. Yi Qinghan shook his head, but his body floated into the distance. In the next second, he disappeared from everyone's sight, leaving behind an extremely resolute sentence. Even if I don't have the confidence, I still have to go. There are my women and my brothers. Pan Xing has been looking for me for so many years. If I don't go, won't I disappoint him? Chapter 1436. Yi Qinghan returned very quickly. He only took a few months to return to the divine world. When Yi Qinghan finally stepped into the divine world, countless figures immediately rose into the sky. Countless figures from the god world immediately rose into the sky. Countless figures from the Flame Dragon City, Flame Dragon Saint City, and Supreme Island flew towards him at lightning speed. The arch was finally back. Yi Qinghan stared at everyone as his gaze swept across the divine world. Fiery Dragon City, Sacred City, Ethereal City, Star Sea, Supreme Island, and countless other places. His gaze swept across Lei Jin's face. Yu Qingqing, Fireworks, Yinling, Yi Qingyu, Yi Qinggu, Yao Ji, Pandora, Yi Yaorao, Yenran, Lanyu, Cherry Blossom, Yi Sihan, Yi Zishi, and countless others. Ha 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 ha. He suddenly laughed. He smiled, laughed heartily, and laughed maniacally. At that moment, he felt an unprecedented satisfaction. That's right. It was satisfaction. He was an orphan on Earth. He had died, but his soul had transmigrated over and become a piece of trash in the Yi family of the Fiery Dragon continent, the 7th son of the Yi family. With Xiaohe the soul ring and his unremitting efforts, struggles, he successfully stood at the pinnacle of the divine world and became the arch of the divine world. He had countless halos, countless legends, countless women, and an unparalleled status. What others had, he had. What others didn't, he had. Living in this world, a man should be like this. What more could he ask for? He had no regrets. Now he only wished for the final battle, the pinnacle battle, for his women, for his brothers. And for himself to stand at the pinnacle, where no one could threaten him. This battle, whether he won or lost, whether he lived or died, he would never regret it. "I'm leaving," he said with a smile. His gaze swept across his family, clansmen, and friends. No one spoke. They looked at him without any doubt. The beast god will bring you to the fairy plain. I will go to the plain battlefield and have the final battle of my life. My opponent is the divine emperor Pan Xing or Pan Huang. Still no one spoke. However, some people began to shed silent tears. Their eyes did not blink for fear that they would miss a glance. "I'm leaving. Wait for me." In the end, Yi Qinghan did not say anything more. He smiled and glanced at the crowd again. Then he turned around resolutely. His spine was like a sword in the sky. His black hair danced in the wind and his eyes were deep. There was a kind of bleakness and decisiveness in his body. "Qinghan. Little Han. Father. Uncle. Emperor." When that frail figure sped up and was about to disappear from everyone's sight, countless people began to cry out softly. Their voices were not loud, as if they were afraid that Yi Qinghan would hear them and hear their hearts bleeding. They were afraid that he would turn around and see their reluctance to leave. Countless tears dripped down, and a fine rain began to fall from the sky. When the wind blew, the rain turned into a hazy mist, blocking everyone's vision and that increasingly blurry figure. Buzz? The teleportation portal in the lava canyon lit up again under the bewildered gaze of the million-strong Immortal Realm army. Jita flew to the side of the teleportation portal with a strange expression. He wondered who would be so reckless as to barge in when the great battle was about to begin. The person who came was dressed in a green robe and had a gentle smile on his face. His eyes were like Xiaohe's, like the sea of stars. That face was extremely familiar to everyone present. "Emperor." Everyone immediately knelt down on one knee. Only Jita opened his mouth wide in surprise and shouted, "Little Han, why are you here?" I'm not welcome?" Yi Qinghan smiled faintly and gave Jita a punch. He looked at everyone and said, "Get up." "I thought you couldn't participate in the battle?" Jita transmitted his voice nervously. Although he did not know what secrets Yi Qinghan had, he could guess that it must be related to Pan Xing. Yi Qinghan looked into the distance and his eyes turned cold. He said, "I couldn't in the past, but I have to come now. Pan Xing is too enthusiastic. If I don't come, he will be disappointed." Jita's eyes shrank and transmitted his voice helplessly, F***Seek. Xiaohe speaks like this and you speak like this too? Do you two brothers think that Pan Xing is some random person? He is not a random person. A random person is a beast. He is worse than a beast. Yi Qinghan laughed mockingly. Although he did not know why Pan Xing wanted to kill him, Pan Xing viewed all living beings in Pan Xing's realm as ants. He could kill them if he wanted to and play with them however he wanted. In this aspect, Pan Xing was worse than a beast. Jita shrugged his shoulders helplessly. His slightly bent back straightened. The worry and fear in his eyes disappeared. He was extremely relaxed. He grinned and said, "Forget it. Since you two brothers want to go crazy, Jita may be useless, but I am not afraid of death. I will go crazy with you." "Haha, that's more like my big brother Jita." Yi Qinghan smiled freely. He walked to the side and sat down cross-legged. He transmitted his voice to Jita, "There are only a few months left before the final battle. I am going to go into seclusion for a few months to see if I can make a breakthrough before the final battle." "You are going into seclusion again? Aren't you worried about Zhu Yi and the others?" Jita asked in surprise. Yi Qinghan smiled and said with certainty, "Since Xiaohe has been in Devil Mountain for so long, Zhu Yi and the others must be fine. I believe in him." "Yes, I believe in him too." Jita looked at Yi Qinghan, who had closed his eyes and started to cultivate in seclusion. He looked into the distance and smiled. The sky of the plain battlefield was still filled with restrictions. It was dim and there was an indescribable and endless feeling. However, at this moment, Jita saw an aura slowly condensing in the sky. A great battle was about to begin, and the weather was about to change. All the celestial world armies were sitting cross-legged in the canyon. Their faces were extremely calm. Although they weren't sure what was going to happen next, they weren't afraid or panicking. That was because their great emperor was here. Time passed in the blink of an eye. A white light suddenly appeared and wrapped everyone in the lava valley. Countless warriors in and out of Devil Mountain were wrapped in it. All of them were sent into Devil Mountain. They were sent into the giant cage, the final grave of all the experts. Zhu Yi and Ice Queen had already recovered from their injuries. They had changed into clean clothes and regained their elegant and beautiful looks. The plain war wasn't over yet. No one could leave the plain battlefield. Since Pan Xing wanted to play with the 8 planes in the divine world, Zhu Yi and the other 2 went all out. Since Xiao He had entered, they would let nature take its course. Whether he lived or died, it would be up to the heavens. What a waste. These millions of people might have to die together with him. Also Jida and the others. Zhu Yi sighed. She looked behind her and noticed that Xiao He had turned his head around. His face was filled with a smile as he stared right at the million troops. Zhu Yi and Ice Queen followed Xiao He's gaze and looked into the crowd. They saw a face that made their dreams go away. Great Emperor. Their bodies shook at the same time. First they were filled with joy. Then they were filled with terror. In the end, the 2 of them ran towards Yi Qinghan without any hesitation. The crowd split apart. Yi Qinghan smiled and walked out. He hugged the 2 of them. His eyes were still locked onto Xiao He, but they were filled with love and pride. Boss you. Why are you here? Xiao He's eyes were as bright as stars. He finally opened his mouth. After he said that, he realized that he said something wrong. Kiki, my woman is suffering here. My brother wants to kill people, so how can I not come? Yi Qinghan pulled Zhu Yi and Ice Queen over proudly. He gave Xiao He a bear hug. He then looked at the mountain that pierced into the sky and smiled. Xiao He, do you remember what we said in the past? If the heavens want to suppress us, then we will pierce through the sky. Xiao He grinned. He flipped his hair and said proudly, "Ha! Right, Pierce. They're chrysanthemums." Chapter 1437. The Divine World Legion has one more expert? Alright. Is that 9th grade supreme martial artist in the Great Perfection realm? Looks like I'll have to add more ingredients to the Divine World. Yi Qinghan's sudden participation attracted Pan Xing's attention. He smiled and began to control the restriction. After a while, his voice resounded in the plain battlefield. The rules of this great battle have changed. All powerhouses of the plains, listen up. This time your goal is no longer to accumulate points, but to kill all the martial artists from the Draconic Human Plane, the Divine World Plane, the Mammoth Beastmen Plane, the Fire Lizard Plane. Anyone who kills more than half of the warriors from these 8 planes will be considered to have defeated the planes. The one who kills the most will be the first and receive a defensive supreme spiritual treasure. The second and third place will be rewarded. Pan Xing's voice resounded in the plain battlefield. Except for the 8 planes, all the other planes were in an uproar. Strangely, the warriors from these 8 planes didn't seem to hear Pan Xing's words. Pan Xing is indeed targeting these 8 planes. The doubts in the minds of countless experts from the plane legions were gone. They became spirited and relaxed. Pan Xing wasn't crazy. It was just that these 8 planes had provoked him. With so many planes, it would be a piece of cake to kill 8 planes. This planar war was probably going to be the easiest planar war ever. As Pan Xing spoke, a map suddenly appeared in the sky above the countless plane strongholds. The coordinates of the 8 planes were marked on it. It was extremely clear. There was a blood-red saber on each of the 8 planes, representing the intent to kill. This plane war involved 100 planes. Except for the 20 planes that were completely annihilated in the Demon Mountain, there were still 60 to 70 planes that still had powerful forces. Most importantly, they didn't have to kill each other. They could join hands to kill their enemies. At that moment, countless planes rushed madly from their respective strongholds towards the 8 planes. They were extremely excited, fanatical, and even a little happy. Idiot. All the experts from the 8 planes didn't hear Pan Xing's words. But, except for 2 people. Yi Qinghan and Xiao He cursed at the same time. Then the 2 of them looked at each other and were shocked. They transmitted their voices at the same time. You can hear that idiot's voice? Xiao He grinned and said, Boss, not only can I hear sounds, I can also see that idiot at the peak of Mount Pan. The restrictive spells here seem to have no effect on me. Poor. 3 black lines appeared on Yi Qinghan's brows as he transmitted his voice. The restrictions here are ineffective against me. I see that idiot is still looking at us and smiling. Ah. Xiao He looked at Pan Shan and the 2 of them laughed out loud. Zhu Yi, Ice Queen, and Hidden Ruler exchanged glances with one another. They didn't understand why the 2 of them were so crazy. The celestial world army behind them didn't know what was going on, but since the two great emperors were laughing, it was definitely a good thing, so they also started laughing foolishly. Pan Xing saw Xiao He and Yi Qinghan's gazes sweeping over, and they seemed to be able to see him clearly. He couldn't help but hesitate. The restrictive spells in the planar battlefield were extremely strong. Because they were set up by Pan Huang, they shouldn't be able to see through them, right? Thinking about it, Pan Xing didn't bother. Anyway, the celestial world would be wiped out soon. He didn't want to guess too much about people dying. If the two of them wanted to laugh, then let them. He saw over 10 armies charging towards the celestial world stronghold. Swish. A few days later, the first wave of armies finally arrived. They were majestic and one couldn't see the end of them. All sorts of monsters, humans, beastmen, aberrations quietly surrounded the celestial world stronghold. Countless martial artists from different planes suddenly emerged from the white fog. Pairs of cold and eerie eyes made the martial artists from the divine world feel a chill in their hearts. See, Zhu Yi, Ice Queen and Hidden Ruler all took in a deep cold breath. So many foreign armies actually appeared at the same time? And they didn't even attack each other? It seemed like they were planning to join forces to kill the celestial world army? Xiao He and Yi Qinghan seemed to have known about it. The two of them stood in front of everyone calmly and leisurely, like two giant dragons looking at a group of dogs. The million immortal world cultivators, after the initial panic and shock, all regained their composure when they saw the white and green figures at the front. Their gazes were indifferent as they looked around proudly. There was no longer any trace of fear on their faces. With the two great emperors here, what was there to be afraid of no matter how many foreign creatures came? The number of foreign planes increased, and so did the number of foreign martial artists. More than 10 planes, tens of millions of foreign plane creatures, countless level 9 experts, level 9 supreme martial artists, and pinnacle experts with supreme spiritual treasures stood outside the celestial world stronghold. Although the celestial world army was extremely strange, they didn't panic at all. Although the two humans at the front of the celestial world army made countless experts feel fear from the depths of their souls, none of the experts thought that they would lose. The millions of humans in front of them would be drowned and torn apart in a moment. There was no doubt about that. There were no war drums, no one giving orders. Countless foreign planes quietly rushed toward the celestial world stronghold at the same time. Countless cold eyes were filled with killing intent, a killing intent that made people suffocate. Xiao He, do you want to do it or should I? Yi Qinghan turned his hand and took out a few jars of wine from his spatial ring. He handed one jar to Xiao He and the hidden monarch kid. He raised his head and took a sip, speaking in an extremely casual manner. Let me do it. It's the ultimate evolution, and a few very interesting supernatural powers have appeared. I haven't used them all, so I don't know how powerful they are. Xiao He raised his head and finished the jar of wine. He threw it away casually, and with a flip of his hand, a 2-meter-long white divine sword appeared. He looked up to the sky and laughed. Good wine. How can there be no songs when there's wine? Boss, how about a song to break the formation and accompany me to kill the enemy? Break the formation? All right. Zhu Yi the accompaniment and Mei Er the dance. Yi Qinghan loudly laughed and Zhu Yi slightly smiled. She took out a zither and sat down cross-legged. She lowered her head and started to play. Her hand moved across the zither, and a desolate killing intent covered the entire mountain. Bing Mei Er also smiled. She tapped her feet, and her body swayed as she danced in the air. She was like a beautiful snow lotus blooming. Snowflakes fell from the sky, making the atmosphere even more enchanting. Ah! Yi Qinghan laughed twice and drank a mouthful of wine. He shouted, when drunk, I watch the sword by the lamp, and when dreaming, I blow the horn chain camp. Whoosh! As soon as the words came out, Xiao He's sword suddenly came out of its sheath. A cold light flashed, blinding people's eyes. After that, Xiao He didn't do anything. He took a step forward, leaving behind a series of afterimages. These afterimages looked very real, like countless clones. They spread all the way down to the foreign plane army below. 800 miles away, the sound of 50 strings flipping over the wall. When Yi Qinghan saw the countless afterimages of Xiao He, his eyes lit up, and his voice became more hurried. Xiao He's afterimages changed directions again. They started to turn into countless afterimages and spread towards the army below. There was no sound of breathing or fighting, and the enemies didn't look surprised or suspicious. Xiao He's body turned into tens of thousands of afterimages, crossing through the entire army. On the battlefield, the autumn picks up the soldiers, the horse moves as fast as lightning, the bow shakes like thunder. Yi Qinghan's voice became more and more hurried. Zhu Yi's music became more and more chilling. The Ice Queen's dance became more and more bewitching. The snowflakes in the sky became bigger and bigger. And Xiao Hei's afterimages became more and more numerous. They started to spread towards the army at the side. The two armies below were filled with Xiao Hei's afterimages. They couldn't be counted, but strangely none of them disappeared. They didn't make any movements, as if they were taking a stroll, finishing the affairs of the sovereign king, winning fame in life and death. It's a pity that it happened for nothing, for nothing. Ah. When Yi Qinghan finished the last line, he raised the wine jar and started to pour it down crazily. The fragrant wine poured down along with his unrestrained laughter. Ching. The sound of the guqin stopped. The white lotus in the sky also stopped dancing. The snowstorm continued to fall. Strangely, all the experts from the foreign plains stopped moving forward. They all looked in the direction where Xiao Hei was rushing down. Countless martial artists in the immortal world couldn't understand. But Jida and the other sovereign's eyes lit up. The hidden sovereign's face was red as if he was drunk. There was a dead silence. Only Yi Qinghan's wild laughter and the sound of the wine pouring down were ear-piercing. Chi. Xiao Hei's afterimages began to disappear. From the top of the mountain, the afterimages disappeared one by one. They went all the way down, faster and faster. In the end, all the afterimages disappeared. Only a figure in snow white was left, standing proudly in front of the countless armies. He held a 2-meter-long divine sword in his hand. The cold light on it was still dazzling. Plop. A scene that millions of martial artists in the immortal world would never forget happened. The two foreign plains armies in front of Xiao Hei were a lion-shaped demonic beast army and a bird-headed, snake-bodied monster army. More than 2 million martial artists, including 11 ninth-grade supreme martial artists and dozens of ninth-grade experts, all started to bleed at this moment. Then they all exploded. Boom. Hum. More than 2 million giant headless corpses collapsed. More than 2 million divinity crystals rose at the same time. The dazzling, colorful divinity crystals lit up the sky of the immortal world's stronghold. They also lit up tens of millions of pale, terrified faces. 2 million powerhouses were killed with one sword. Chapter 1438. A man should kill without mercy. 1,000 years of immortality, all in killing. In the past there were heroic men loyal to their word. Killing with a glare, the body lighter than a feather. There were also heroes and tyrants, killing people like flies, galloping across the world, only praising sabers and spears. Xiao Hei, good kill. Good kill. The wine in Yi Qinghan's hand poured down in torrents. His laughter stopped, but his heroic voice once again resounded in the surroundings. In this cruel world, if you don't kill him, he will come to kill you. Since they want to kill us, we can kill them. There is no reason in this world, whoever's fist is harder is the reason, whoever's sword can kill is a hero. Kill them until their corpses are everywhere, kill them until their blood flows like a river. We won't cause trouble, but whoever dares to be our enemy, kill without mercy. Yi Qinghan's sonorous voice reverberated in the surroundings and soared into the sky. Along with the last sentence, kill without mercy, Little Black's aura soared into the sky. His tremendous killing intent enveloped the surroundings like a gust of wind in the coldest winter. All the martial artists from the other planes began to tremble in the depths of their souls. Xiao Hei's body began to move again. It was that kind of terrifying afterimage again, spreading endlessly in all directions. This time it was different. Wherever his afterimage went, countless heads began to bleed, flying wildly. Whether it was a low-level warrior, a ninth-grade supreme martial artist, or a ninth-grade supreme martial artist with a supreme spiritual treasure, blood spurted out of the heads of all of them as Little Black passed by. Their heads exploded with a bang and divine crystals flew out. The scene looked extremely terrifying. Countless foreign dimension martial artists began to tremble. Countless foreign dimension martial artists' faces and backs were drenched in cold sweat. Even more martial artists began to turn around and run. Was he even someone who could be killed? Countless foreign dimension martial artists, as they fled, looked at Pan Xing and cursed in a low voice. Pan Xing was not toying with these 8 dimensions to death, he was toying with them to death. In just a moment, another 1,000,000 headless corpses fell to the ground. No one dared to fight with Xiao Hei, or rather no one was qualified to fight with him. This was a one-sided massacre, a massacre that was akin to slaughtering chickens and dogs. Countless martial artists from other planes began to cry out. There were even some low-level martial artists who were scared silly and didn't dare to run anymore. Their bodies slumped to the ground, their eyes filled with despair and confusion. All hail the great emperor. All hail Emperor Xiaohe. After a brief moment of shock and bewilderment, the God World army finally saw the countless troops from other planes begin to retreat like a receding tide. All of them let out a heaven-shaking roar. His voice pierced through the heavens, causing the fleeing martial artists from the other planes to speed up even more. Boom! At this moment, a bolt of purple lightning suddenly appeared in the sky. Because of the restriction, the crowd could not see it. They could only hear a loud explosion and an unparalleled aura suddenly pressing down. Xiaohe's body paused at that moment. His eyes were like two sharp swords that shot towards the sky. He sneered, "This idiot finally couldn't bear it anymore and wants to take action himself?" Yi Qinghan's gaze immediately shot towards Pan Xing, who was at the peak of Mount Pan. His gaze that was as bright as the stars and Pan Xing's murderous gaze met. Both of them revealed a cold smile. Yi Qinghan's expression turned serious for the first time. His gaze was still fixed on Pan Xing. He said in a deep voice, "Xiaohe, do you have the confidence to take it?" Xiaohe's gaze was fixed on the purple dragon thunderbolt in the sky. He grinned and said, "Before the ultimate evolution I will definitely die. As for now, I can give it a try." Boom, boom. The thunderbolt rolled and roared in the sky. Although there was only one thunderbolt, it was 100 times stronger than the thunderbolt that Yi Qinghan had triggered in the fairy plane. The thunderbolt in the sky startled all the warriors and creatures in the dimensional battlefield. 5 of the remaining 7-dimensional strongholds had already been destroyed. In the other 2-dimensional battlefields, the two sides that were crazily fighting stopped fighting. They looked at the sky in fear. They felt the supreme and unparalleled aura, and they were all astonished and terrified. Boom! The thunderbolt finally came crashing down. It turned into an extremely ferocious and terrifying purple dragon that whizzed down towards Xiaohe. An extremely strange thing happened the moment the thunderbolt came crashing down. All the inhibition formations in the dimensional battlefield disappeared at this moment. The countless inhibition formations in the sky disappeared. The white fog in the battlefield disappeared. All the warriors could now use their eyes and divine senses to investigate. All the warriors couldn't clearly sense the thunderbolt in the sky. It was hundreds of meters long and hundreds of meters thick. They could see the black figure standing on the peak of Mount Pan. However, at this moment no one had time to look at Pan Xing. Instead, they curiously followed the thunderbolt to see where it would land. The target of the thunderbolt was very obvious. A white figure stood thousands of miles in front of the heavenly realm stronghold. His robe was whiter than snow, and his long sword was enchanting. His eyes were as deep as the sea of stars. He looked at the terrifying thunderbolt proudly and fearlessly. He wanted to use his flesh and blood to resist the thunderbolt and the power of heaven and earth. Could the might of heaven and earth, the power of heaven and earth, be resisted by flesh and blood? The 70 to 80 million warriors in the dimensional battlefield held their breaths. Even the two enemies that had been fighting desperately just now stood side by side. Their divine senses were locked on Xiaohe, waiting for this shocking scene. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists tightly. The veins on his hands bulged. But he didn't make a move. Because Xiaohe said he wanted to try. He believed in Xiaohe. Zhu Yi grabbed onto the zither with all her might. Her hand was cut by the zither and it was bleeding. However, she didn't notice it at all. Her eyes were locked onto Xiaohe and she didn't dare to breathe at all. In the air, the Ice Queen's face flushed red once more. Her petite body trembled rhythmically like when she was fighting with Yi Qinghan. She was so excited that she was about to explode. On the peak of the heavenly realm stronghold, millions of warriors, hidden rulers, Jida, and many other rulers opened their eyes wide. They didn't dare to blink at all, afraid that they would miss out on such a dangerous scene. Hong! The purple thunderbolt brought with it a destructive, invincible and all-destroying aura as it smashed down. It swallowed Xiaohe up. A giant hole appeared where Xiaohe was at a speed visible to the naked eye. One couldn't even see the bottom of it. A giant mushroom cloud rose up and covered the sky. It blocked everyone's vision and the tens of millions of divine senses. At this moment, the souls of all the warriors trembled. It was as if the thunderbolt had struck their bodies. They felt a bone-piercing chill in their hearts as the mushroom cloud rose up. It was so cold that it pierced their hearts. An ant is just an ant. How can you go against the might of the heavens? Pan Xing's voice rang out calmly. It was like an iron fist mercilessly smashing into the hearts of all the warriors. The millions of warriors in the heavenly realm, Zhu Yi, Ice Queen, hidden rulers, Jida, and everyone else felt their hearts skip a beat. They all looked towards Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's clenched fists loosened at this moment. A smile appeared on his face. following which the smile grew bigger and bigger. It was like a blossoming flower, incomparably resplendent. Today I, the Emperor, will go against the might of the heavens. Let's see if you, the God Emperor, who represents the might of the heavens, is tighter than my sword. A faint voice came from the deep pit. Under the dumbfounded gazes of countless people, a white figure shot out from the pit, holding a 2-meter-long divine sword in his hand. He turned into a white flash of lightning and flew toward the peak of Mount Pan. The long sword was cold and full of killing intent. Its target was the supreme divine emperor, Pan Xing, who was at the peak of Mount Pan. Chapter 1439. Someone wanted to kill Pan Xing? Everyone was dumbfounded. Who was Pan Xing? He was the supreme god emperor. He was the manager of Pan Realm. Normally no one dared to talk about his name. Even if they wanted to scold him, they would do it in their hearts. Who dared to show it? Today there was actually a human who wanted to kill Pan Xing with a sword? Countless people had the urge to cry. They cried because of this scene. They cried because there was finally a warrior who dared to go against heaven's might and challenge the supreme existence. The supreme god emperor. No matter what, this courage was enough to make all the experts in the plain battlefield remember it forever. Everyone became excited, all of them trembling. They were all fired up from being able to see this heaven-shocking scene. Even though no one thought that this human could survive in the end. In fact, many people thought that Xiao He would definitely not be able to take one move from Pan Xing. The million-strong immortal world army was scared out of their wits. They knew that Emperor Xiao He was fierce and inhuman, but there was no need to do this, right? Was he going to make them piss their pants? The kid-hidden monarch Zhu Yi and the Ice Queen were ecstatic when they saw that Xiao He was able to withstand the divine lightning and was fine. Tears streamed down their cheeks. However, they were not surprised when Xiao He raised his sword and went for Pan Xing. Because they knew that today the two brothers were here to kill Pan Xing. Yi Qinghan did not make any movements. Instead, she narrowed her eyes and stared quietly at Little Black. Little Black transformed into the heavenly fairy and shot towards the peak of Mount Pan like a fairy flying into a flame. Bitch. Watch this emperor's god-slaying sword. Xiao He's body was in midair. The sword in his hand danced. As his sword danced, the natural energy of the entire plain battlefield actually gathered toward him. No. It wasn't just the entire plain battlefield. The natural energy of the universe outside the plain battlefield was also gathering toward him. An incomparable aura of terror gathered on Xiao He. His snow-white robe fluttered, his black hair danced, and his eyes were as bright as stars. His killing intent was like a rainbow. It was as if an ancient god of slaughter had descended. Countless ninth-grade supreme martial artists trembled in fear. Countless low-level martial artists were directly pressed to the ground by this great pressure, unable to even stand. The heaven-earth yuan qi in the sky had already reached an incomparably terrifying level. The pressure in the sky had already surpassed that of the divine lightning. It was enough to easily destroy all the martial artists present. Only now did the creatures from the alien planes who had been scared witless by Xiao He, realized that Xiao He was just playing around when he killed 2 million warriors with a single strike of his sword. This was probably his strongest attack. The most terrifying attack, the god-slaying sword. Among the millions of divine world's warriors, the eyes of Zhu Yi and the others brightened. Hope rose in their hearts. Such a powerful force was enough to shatter the divine world. It should be enough to kill Pan Xing, right? Xiao He's ultimate evolution is actually to comprehend the Tao of nature. He can borrow the power of nature without limit. No wonder his strength has reached such a terrifying level. Yi Qinghan was suddenly enlightened. But he shook his head helplessly inside. Xiao He's strength may be comparable to Pan Xing's, but he is definitely no match for him. Xiao He's attack was finally completed. The 2-meter-long giant sword was raised high and then slashed down violently. Along with this slash, the massive natural energy of the universe he had gathered turned into a 100,000-meter-long crescent-shaped sword radiance. With the power to destroy everything, it shot toward the peak of Mount Pan. A 100,000-meter-long sword radiance. A sword radiance formed by the purest energy of the universe. How terrifying was this aura? How terrifying was this energy? At this moment, everyone inexplicably believed that if this shocking sword radiance hit Mount Pan would definitely be split into two. There was no surprise at all. Time seemed to have frozen at this moment. Everything in front of them disappeared. Heaven and earth disappeared. Everyone's eyes were filled with darkness. It seemed like there was only the 100,000-meter-long sword radiance, the towering Mount Pan, and the black-robed man on the peak of Mount Pan, Pan Xing. Pan Xing finally moved. He stretched out a hand, a small hand, and lightly clapped. At this moment, heaven and earth seemed to have frozen. There was only this pale hand left in the universe. This hand wasn't formed by the power of space or the power of the universe. It was a real hand. But the most amazing thing was, this hand wasn't big, but it gave everyone the feeling that it could cover the sky. In fact, it could indeed cover the sky. Because everyone's attention was focused on this hand. This hand made of flesh and blood slapped the 100,000-meter-long sword Radiance. Pan Xing actually wanted to use his flesh and blood to fight against the super sword Radiance that Xiao He had condensed, which was enough to split a plane. Everyone felt that the world had gone crazy. No matter how strong Pan Xing was, he was still made of flesh and blood, right? Was his body not made of flesh and blood? The answer was revealed in the next second. Pan Xing's hand was indeed made of flesh and blood. But his hand made of flesh and blood easily smashed Xiao Hei's super sword Radiance. Then it slapped right onto Xiao Hei's body. Xiao Hei's body instantly turned into pieces of meat, splattering to the ground. A blood mist floated in the air. Silence, a deathly silence. Zhu Yi and Ice Queen covered their mouths and tried their best not to make a sound. Kid opened his mouth wide. The hidden world ruler's face turned even redder. His eyes were in a daze like he was totally drunk. The million-god world warriors were filled with disbelief. They felt that the situation was one-sided just now, so how did it turn around? Only Yi Qinghan was really calm. He squinted his eyes and sighed, Xiao He won't die, so why are you panicking? Zhu Yi and Ice Queen looked towards Yi Qinghan and then at the battlefield. Under the gazes of disbelief, the pieces of meat on the ground actually congealed and slowly formed Xiao Hei's body. However, Xiao Hei's face was extremely ashen white, sickly white. Xiao Hei's dim eyes were filled with disbelief. He didn't believe that he had lost. He didn't believe that with his strength, he couldn't even take a single strike from Pan Xing. He struggled to stand up, but he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. His dim eyes stared stubbornly at Pan Xing, who was at the peak of Mount Pan. He was like a lone wolf in despair. A mutant born from the supreme slaughter god blade that jumped out of the 5 elements and has an undying body. Do you really think that you are invincible and can go against the might of the heavens? I can easily suppress you. Ant will forever be an ant. Pan Xing's cold words were like knives stabbing into Xiao Hei's chest. Xiao Hei's body trembled and his heart was bleeding. His face was filled with unwillingness, rage, and killing intent. I am going to kill you. Just as Xiao Hei was about to use all his strength to fly into the sky once more, a hand was placed on his shoulder. A thin green body walked in front of him and looked at him with a doting smile. A gentle voice rang out. Xiao Hei, you are not his match. You are already outstanding enough and have done well. This isn't your fault. What happens next? Leave it to me. Chapter 1440. Boss, Xiao Hei is useless. Xiao Hei stumbled and nearly fell. He looked at Yi Qinghan bitterly, like a kid who had done something wrong looking at his parents. His face was filled with guilt. No. Xiao Hei, you have done well. It isn't that you aren't strong enough, but that no one in Plate World is Pan Xing's match. Even if you become a god emperor or a supreme, you still can't do it. Yi Qinghan smiled and nodded. He glanced at Pan Xing, who was at the peak of Mount Pan, and explained, no matter how strong your cultivation is, you are still borrowing the power of heaven and earth to attack. However, Pan Xing is in control, absolute control. All the power of heaven and earth is under his control, so how can you be his match? Yi Qinghan's voice wasn't loud, but it reverberated clearly in everyone's ears. The tens of millions of warriors in the planar battlefield were enlightened, revealing expressions of understanding. Pan Xing had absolute control. The power of heaven and earth that the warriors borrowed was all under his control. Pan Xing could easily take back the power of heaven and earth that they borrowed. Think about it. Who could be his match in Plate World? Zhu Yi, Ice Queen, and the others revealed bitter expressions. Xiao Hei used such a heaven-defying attack and still wasn't Pan Xing's match. Even if Yi Qinghan was stronger than Xiao Hei, what could he do? Was the outcome determined? Everyone from the god realm had a bitter expression on their faces, but not a single one of them regretted it, and not a single one of them panicked. All of them looked at Yi Qinghan and Xiao Hei, and the corners of their mouths curled into a slight smile. They had witnessed such a shocking battle today, and they could die with 2 great emperors. This outcome seemed not bad. Zhu Yi and Ice Queen's smile was the sweetest. The 2 of them knew that they were going to die. They were already satisfied to be able to see Yi Qinghan one last time. Now that they were able to accompany the man they loved to die, wasn't that a form of happiness? Countless experts from other planes had their divine senses locked onto Yi Qinghan and Xiao Hei. They also felt sorry for them. Today, 2 peak experts of the immortal world had died. Perhaps tomorrow it would be their deaths. This seemed to be fate, the fate of the strong. Countless talented young men and women worked hard, fought, and cultivated. One step at a time to become an expert, but the final path was the same. He would enter this planar battlefield, this graveyard of experts, and then be forever buried here. It really is you. I should have guessed it. Pan Xing's gaze locked onto Yi Qinghan. He had a gentle smile on his face, as if he had found his most beloved lover. He shook his head and smiled. I should have guessed it when you fought the half-beast plane. In order to protect you, Pan Shi used her primordial energy to forcibly increase the strength of the man and the beast to attract my attention. At that time, apart from the bloody Gobi Desert, only your side had the fiercest battles. I should have guessed it long ago. You are the one who broke through the Plate Realm's barrier. You are the one who broke my rules. So I said that you are a retard. Yi Qinghan smiled warmly. He swore right away, causing everyone in the God World army to smile. The faces of the tens of millions of martial artists in the planar battlefield turned green. He didn't look at Pan Xing. Instead, he swept the planar battlefield and muttered to himself, break through the Plate Realm's barrier? So, you found me because of this? For this reason, you made the numerous lives in the Plate Realm go crazy and die? You retard, can't you use your brain? Come up with such a stupid idea? If I'm not a hot-blooded person but a cold-blooded and merciless person, and I don't show up in this planar war or any future planar wars, and I just keep hiding, are you going to exterminate all life in half of the planar wars? Pan Xing didn't get angry. Instead he smiled even wider. He said without hesitation, so what? The lives in the Plate Realm are like ants. Even if I killed all of you and destroyed countless civilizations in the planar battlefield, in less than 1,000,000 years, another civilization will be born. Countless experts will come here again. As the ruler of the Plate Realm, I control the laws of the world and the laws of the Plate Realm. As the ruler of the Plate Realm, I control the laws of heaven and earth and the laws of the Plate Realm. Life and death are in my hands. If I want to kill, I can kill. Can you bite me? Moreover, aren't you here? Yi Qinghan smiled mockingly. His gaze met Pan Xing's again. He suddenly waved his hand and pointed at Pan Xing, saying coldly, that's why I said you are a retard. You're worse than a beast. Yi Qinghan didn't want to reason with this guy. He directly scolded him. There was no such thing as reason in this world. Whoever had the bigger fist had the right to reason. Even if you talked extravagantly and brought out the truth, could you reform Pan Xing? Could you make him put down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha? Pan Xing sneered and said faintly, since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. Make your move. Since you can break through the barrier of the Plate Realm, you must have extraordinary abilities and divine powers. Show me, can an ant like you resist the power of heaven? As soon as Pan Xing said this, countless people were shocked. Their divine senses locked onto Yi Qinghan's frail body. Although they didn't understand Pan Xing's words, he praised Yi Qinghan a lot. Would another expert in the God world be more terrifying than the one just now? The eyes of many people in the God world lit up. They believed that Yi Qinghan was the strongest and there was no one who could compare to him. Great Emperor Xiaohei's attack was already so earth-shattering. How tyrannical would a great emperor's attack be? Although many people didn't dare to hope that Yi Qinghan could kill Pan Xing, to be able to exchange a few blows with him, even if they died, they wouldn't have any regrets. Zhu Yi and Ice Queen clenched their hands and looked at Yi Qinghan with a burning gaze. They prayed silently, Emperor, you have created many miracles. This time you will definitely create one too. All gazes and divine senses gathered on Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan smiled and slowly rose into the air. As his body rose up, his aura started to rise and rise. When Yi Qinghan's height was the same as Pan Xing's, his aura also rose to the extreme. The warriors below all sucked in a cold breath. Many experts from different planes had the same question in their minds. Was the God world's feng shui really good? In ancient times, the 10 ancient races appeared in the God world. They ruled over dozens of planes in Pangaea. Now that such a heaven-defying Xiaohei appeared, everyone was nearly scared to death. Who knew? Yi Qinghan's aura was actually several times stronger than Xiaohei's. Just looking at aura, Yi Qinghan and Pan Xing were on par. Pan Xing's body emitted a killing intent. It was a killing intent that no one dared to resist. Yi Qinghan was like an ocean of stars, making one feel that he was deep and immeasurable. It was as if Yi Qinghan represented a world. Chapter 1441. You do have some skills. The smile on Pan Xing's face began to disappear. The aura on his body rose infinitely. That soaring killing intent was just like the divine thunder from before. It brought along a boundless pressure and suddenly pressed down. The warrior who had just been standing for a short while knelt down again. Even countless ninth-grade supreme martial artists couldn't withstand the pressure and collapsed. At this moment, Pan Xing became an unsheathed sword. His killing intent was overbearing, wanting to destroy everything. Yi Qinghan, on the other hand, had turned into an endless void. Pan Xing's murderous intent rushed into his aura, but it was like a reverse current flowing into the sea, unable to cause any ripples. God Slayer's spear appear. Yi Qinghan's aura rose. He waved his hands and 10 God Slayer's spears behind him pierced out from the void. Once they appeared, the surrounding space immediately distorted, making it hard for people to see clearly. The aura of the God Slayer's spear became several times more terrifying. All the experts below knew very well that Yi Qinghan's God Slayer's spear didn't look as gorgeous as Xiao Hei's super sword light. However, based on the aura, it was definitely more domineering than Xiao Hei's. Xiao Hei's attack made everyone feel suffocated. However, Yi Qinghan's God Slayer's spear made them feel like Pan Xing's hand. Their whole bodies were trembling. Even their soul seas were trembling. When it came to a battle between experts of this level, all fancy tricks were useless. It was a battle of strength. Absolute strength. Yi Qinghan relied on the power of the cold realm, the power of cold. Pan Xing relied on the power of the Pan realm. The power of the entire Pan realm could be used by him. You really have some skills. This power is actually not the power of the Pan realm. Pan Xing stared at the God Slayer's spear beside Yi Qinghan. He felt the power contained in it and was extremely surprised. However, this surprise only lasted for a second. In the next second, Pan Xing's face revealed a cruel expression. He slowly raised his hand and grinned. However, so what? As long as you die, there will be no problems. Come. Yi Qinghan's eyes shot out brilliant rays of light, and rays of golden light also appeared on his body. The rays of light became brighter and brighter, and in the end, they engulfed him and turned him completely golden. The 10 Godslayer spears' aura shook once again and transformed into 10 ancient dragons. With a destructive aura, they whizzed toward Pan Xing. Shoo. Wherever the Godslayer's spear passed, the space didn't tear apart, didn't twist, and didn't blur. Instead, it directly collapsed and the surrounding space completely collapsed. Pieces of land began to collapse. Good timing. Pan Xing laughed heartily, his black hair standing on end as if he had transformed into a super scion. The killing intent in his eyes could condense into a solid substance. He opened his hands at the same time, closed his eyes and looked solemn. At this moment he felt that the world was in his hands, and he had absolute control over it. Boom. All of a sudden, countless lightning bolts came from the sky, circling behind him. Every lightning bolt was as thick and big as the one that smashed into Xiao Hei just now. Hundreds of divine thunder purple dragons were circling and dancing behind him. How terrifying was this scene? How terrifying was it? Between heaven and earth, the wind and clouds began to dance. The horrifying chi of heaven and earth, from the sky, from the ground, and from all directions crazily gathered toward Pan Xing. The wind was blowing. It wasn't a gentle breeze, nor was it a cold wind, but a hurricane. Countless hurricanes suddenly appeared, circling behind Pan Xing. The purple lightning and the hurricane whistled behind Pan Xing. The hurricane was roaring and the purple dragon divine thunder was roaring. The huge Mount Pan began to shake at this moment. The wind and clouds danced and the world was shocked. All the warriors in the dimensional battlefield, including all the 9th grade supreme martial artists, were prostrating on the ground. All the warriors' souls were trembling. What was the power of heaven and earth? This was the power of heaven and earth. When Pan Xing fought with Xiao Hei just now, he didn't reveal half of his strength. Now he was using his full strength, gathering the chi of heaven and earth to resist the enemy. Looking at the divine thunder, the hurricane, and the horrifying energy in the divine thunder and hurricane, no one thought that a human could resist it. Undefeatable, undefeatable. Pan Xing could control the chi of heaven and earth of Pan Realm. It was true. His strength was enough to make people feel hopeless. Kill, kill, kill. Yi Qinghan felt the unparalleled pressure and invincible energy from Pan Xing. But what could he do? He could only risk his life for the last battle. Therefore he used all his strength and roared, trying to defeat the enemy with one strike. Die. No one can resist me. Die, die, die. Pan Xing's eyes were filled with mockery and disdain. He waved his hands, and the divine thunder and hurricane around him condensed into a 1,000,000-meter-long 7-colored dragon. The moment this 7-colored dragon appeared, the heaven and earth trembled. Pan Shan shook violently. The heaven and earth disappeared and Pan Shan disappeared. Only this seven-colored dragon was left in the heaven and earth. This seven-colored dragon had an unparalleled aura. The seven-colored dragon roared silently in the sky. Then it flew towards the 10 God-Slayer spears that were as small as wooden sticks. Spin for me. Break, break, break. Yi Qinghan roared, and the 10 God-Slayer spears shot towards the seven-colored dragon continuously. He had no way out. Either he destroyed the seven-colored dragon and killed Pan Xing, or he died. The first God-Slayer spear started spinning crazily. Once it touched the seven-colored dragon, it immediately disintegrated. Their strength wasn't on the same level. The second spear. It pierced into the seven-colored dragon, 100 meters, explode. The third spear pierced into the seven-colored dragon, 1,000 meters, explode. The fourth spear, 10,000 meters, explode. The fifth spear, explode. The last spear pierced through the seven-colored dragon's million-meter-long body, but it exploded powerlessly. The seven-colored dragon's color only dimmed a little, but it still carried an extremely destructive aura and smashed onto Yi Qinghan's body. Fire God battle armor, protect me. At the last moment, Yi Qinghan closed his eyes powerlessly and shouted with all his might. The Fire God battle armor had indeed protected him. However, as Yi Qinghan's body flew backward, the Fire God battle armor exploded into pieces. It turned into countless scale armor fragments and scattered on the plain battlefield. I lost. Yi Qinghan's body was smashed onto the demon mountain, bounced off, and smashed onto the ground, raising a cloud of dust. He laid on the ground powerlessly, and his face was filled with bitterness and desolation. An ant will always be an ant. Even if you have great strength, you are still an ant. The seven-colored dragon circled high in the sky, emitting a soul-shaking aura. Pan Xing's mocking laughter resounded throughout the entire plain battlefield. No, I still have a bottleneck that I haven't broken through. If I break through it, I can easily crush you to death. I can't accept this, I can't accept this. Yi Qinghan lay on the ground, staring at Pan Xing. His body trembled and he growled. He was even more furious than Xiaohe, more furious and more unwilling. He indeed had a bottleneck that he hadn't broken through, the law of fire. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth. Now he only lacked the law of fire. He believed that as long as he broke through the last bottleneck of the law of fire, his strength would multiply. He wouldn't suffer a crushing defeat like he did now. Unfortunately, he didn't have time. If he had a few 100,000 years, no. He was absolutely confident that he could kill Pan Xing in a few 100,000 years. Breakthrough? Ah, what a joke. Even if you break through 100 bottlenecks, you won't be my match. I can control the power of Pan Realm. What do you have? Do you have Pan Realm? With your pitiful strength, so what if I give you 10 times more? I just need to think about it and I can form 10, 100, 10,000 such giant seven-colored dragons. I will use the power of Pan Realm. How are you going to fight me? Pan Xing laughed out loud in an unrestrained manner. It was like he had heard an ant tell a god dragon that he had learned martial arts and wanted to kill the god dragon. It was funny, incomparably funny. All the martial artists in the plain battlefield locked onto the man who was covered in blood but was roaring in rage and was filled with unwillingness. He felt an emptiness in his heart. A peerless expert of his generation was about to fall, and he felt a sense of emptiness. He felt empty because of his orders in the future. Emperor, don't be afraid. We will accompany you to the Netherworld realm. You won't be lonely. Zhu Yi, Ice Queen, and everyone else in God World looked at Yi Qinghan with heartache. They felt a wave of pain in their hearts. The Emperor had lost. Everyone's ending was decided. Die. Boss, we weren't born on the same day, month and year, but we can die on the same day. Under that terrifying pressure, Xiaohe's body was already really weak. However, he struggled to crawl towards Yi Qinghan. There was no unwillingness in his eyes, only satisfaction. To be able to die with his boss. Satisfaction. Could an ant really not go against the heavens? Maybe everything was fate? Like that butterfly that would never be able to fly across the ocean. Chapter 1442. No, Xiaohe, we won't die. I still want to bring you back to my hometown, to Earth, to take a look. I also want to help your aunt, the Soul Emperor, revive. Since the heavens let me, a dead person, transmigrate to this world, since the heavens let me, a trash from the Yi family, obtain the soul ring and meet you, since the heavens let me step on countless corpses to reach this stage, then the heavens won't let me die. I can't die. Yi Qinghan stared at Xiaohe and said word by word. Although his face and body were covered in blood, although he didn't even have the strength to stand up, his body started to gather energy and he started to stand up. I can control the power of Pan Boundary. What do you have? Do you have pan boundary? With your pitiful strength, so what if I give you 10 times more? If I want to, I can form 10, 100, 10,000 seven-colored dragons like this. If I use the power of pan boundary, how can you fight against me? Pan Xing's words rang in his ears, like a mountain pressing down on his shoulders. His body slowly stood up, straighter and straighter, like a sword piercing the heavens. He didn't look at Xiao He who was crawling towards him, didn't look at the blissful Ice Queen and Zhu Yi, didn't look at the hidden King Kid who was prepared to die with him, the Million God World Warriors. He stared at Pan Xing who was at the peak of Pan Mountain. He stared right at him. After a moment he suddenly closed his eyes. The unwillingness on his face disappeared, the anger on his face also disappeared. There was no expression on his face, no joy, no sadness, no anger, no sadness. His body started to emit golden light once again. The light was tens of thousands of feet wide, it lit up Xiao Hei's pale face, lit up the demon mountain behind him, lit up the entire plain battlefield. Abruptly Yi Qinghan opened his eyes. At this moment, everyone felt that Yi Qinghan was different. Although they didn't know what was different about him, they could clearly feel that Yi Qinghan was different. He was like a firefly in the night, extremely eye-catching, incomparably dazzling. In Yi Qinghan's eyes, countless people no longer saw a profundity, nor did they see a sea of stars. Instead they saw a world. Pan Xing, you can control the power of Pan Realm? You can gather the power of the Plate Realm to form countless seven-colored dragons and destroy all life within the Plate Realm. But, you can't kill me. Because I no longer belong to Plate Realm. You ask me what I have? Let me tell you. I don't have Plate Realm, but I have a cold realm just like Plate Realm. You can control the power of Pan Realm, but I have the entire cold realm. You are a supreme god emperor, but I am the ruler of the cold realm. Pan Xing. Do you know why I can break through the barrier of Pan Realm? It is because I have a world. I am the ruler of that world. Yi Qinghan's calm voice reverberated throughout the entire planar battlefield. Many people didn't understand Yi Qinghan's words, such as the experts from the other planes. Many people only understood a little, such as Zhu Yi and Xiao He. But there was one person who understood everything. How is this possible? How could you create a world? Ridiculous nonsense. I don't believe you. You ain't die for me, die. For the first time, Pan Xing's face showed a trace of fear. Then his expression turned ferocious. The seven-colored dragon circling above Yi Qinghan's head smashed towards Yi Qinghan with an aura that could destroy everything in Pan Xing's boundless anger and fear. Yi Qinghan didn't resist. He only showed a mocking expression. The moment the seven-colored dragon smashed down, his body suddenly disappeared. He disappeared without a trace, disappeared under the lock of tens of millions of divine senses. Hiss! Everyone had a look of disbelief. How powerful was this seven-colored dragon? He could disappear without a trace after being locked on by the seven-colored dragon? He could actually disappear right under Pan Xing's eyes? No, this can't be true? Pan Xing didn't believe it either. But just now he felt that someone had broken through the barrier of Plate Realm. When he thought of Yi Qinghan's words, he started to feel incomparably terrified. I'm the ruler of the Frost Realm. I own a world. He was a god emperor supremacy. He was the strongest person in the god realm in name. However, he knew very well that the strongest person in Plate Realm wasn't him, but Pan Huang, the ruler of Plate Realm. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth. 5 elements, return, black hole, appear. Within the Frost Realm, Yi Qinghan stood in the void. His hands danced as the 5 basic elements of the Frost Realm surged towards him. As of this moment, the entire frigid realm was trembling with joy. Countless elements condensed in his hands. He shot them into the endless void and condensed black holes. Power of Frost, come. Yi Qinghan shouted again. In the center of the Frost Realm, endless power of frost gathered towards him. It condensed in his hands, but he compressed it infinitely. Power of frost that exceeded the scope of the god realm gathered towards Yi Qinghan continuously. However, he compressed all of it in his hands, forming a sphere with an incomparably terrifying aura. Power of frost, explode. Heaven and earth origin energy, appear. Spatial shattering blade flow, appear. When the last drop of the power of cold condensed into that sphere, Yi Qinghan's eyes shot out millions of rays of light. His hands suddenly pushed out, and the incomparably terrifying power of cold condensed spheres within the cold domain suddenly shot into the void. In the end, they exploded with a loud bang. In the void, the largest and most brilliant firework in history bloomed. All the power of frost turned into nothingness at this moment. Incomparably dense heaven and earth origin energy filled the entire void and every plane of existence. Heaven and earth origin energy was not evenly distributed, so it began to form air currents and gentle winds. These gentle winds began to pick up the dust in the void. The ruins of the world began to move faster and faster, turning into spatial shattering blade flows that began to drift through the endless void, through the frost realm, never knowing fatigue. The entire frost realm emitted a gentle golden light that flashed for a moment before disappearing. But the frost realm had undergone an earth-shattering transformation. Space became incomparably stable, and most importantly, the frost realm had come to life, bursting with life. Heaven and earth stabilized, space formed. Yi Qinghan smiled. He looked around at the frost realm and laughed out loud. I've finally done it. I've done it. The frost realm has come to life. I've created a world. I've become the ruler of the frost realm, the supreme ruler. Chapter 1443. Come out. Scram out. Pan Xing's enraged voice resounded on the peak of Mount Pan. The killing intent in his voice made all the warriors from the other planes shrink their necks. They crouched on the ground and lowered their bodies even more. They were afraid of angering Pan Xing and being torn into pieces by Pan Xing. However, in the planar battlefield, apart from his roars, there was no other sound. Yi Qinghan's figure did not appear again. You aren't coming out, right? Pan Xing's tiger eyes shot out streaks of remnant intent and a vicious smile appeared on his face. His body floated up and he turned into a giant sword that shot downwards towards the God World stronghold. You aren't coming out? I will tear everyone in the God World army into shreds. I will suppress that alien that was born from the slaughter god blade under the reincarnation grounds forever. I will kill all living beings in the God World and not leave a single one alive. Pan Xing stepped into the air and walked towards the stronghold. His gaze was like that of a tiger and filled with killing intent. At this moment, no one doubted his determination. He really dared to kill, and he had killed numerous people. Idiot. The Million God World army all laughed and spat out these two words at the same time. Their laughter was as calm and natural as when Yi Qinghan said these two words. Idiot. Jita laughed too. Would people from the God World be afraid of death? Of course they would. But none of the soldiers under the Emperor, his brothers, were afraid of death. Idiot. Zhu Yi and Ice Queen looked at Pan Xing in disdain. This supreme being who controlled the life and death of all living beings in Pangaea was not even a millionth of their man in their eyes. Idiot. Although Blackie was still lying on the ground, he stretched out a hand and stroked his hair, flipping his hair in an incomparably showy manner. He was arrogantly telling the world that the world didn't understand his and Yi Qinghan's arrogance. He is indeed an idiot. A familiar voice finally sounded and made a concluding statement. Yi Qinghan silently appeared on the peak of Mount Pan. His black hair danced in the wind and his green robe fluttered. His face was full of mockery. It was as if, at this moment, he had become the supreme existence of Pangaea and Pan Xing had become an ant. Pan Xing, you might be an idiot, but I still have to thank you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to break through the bottleneck of the magical laws of fire so quickly. I wouldn't have gained enlightenment of the will of the Sovereign Lord, and my frigid world wouldn't have come to life. Yi Qinghan's body was frail as he stood at the peak of Mount Pan. Compared to Mount Pan, he was incomparably tiny. But at this moment, in everyone's eyes, he seemed to have become Pan Shan, and Pan Shan had become a mound of earth. His not-so-tall stature actually gave people a feeling that they could only look up to him and not surpass him. Even Pan Xing felt the same way. In the past, there was only one person in the entire Pan realm who could make Pan Xing feel this way. That was the ruler of Pan realm, Pan Huang. In the past, my comprehensions were always wrong. I always wanted to perfect my frigid world, and I always thought of every possible way to perfect it. In truth, I walked a wrong path. If it weren't for your words, I might have had to walk this wrong path for a very long time. You ask me what I have? Let me tell you, I have a frigid world. I was the one who created the frigid world. I am the ruler of the frigid world. Since I am the ruler, then this frigid world can be ruled by me. If I want it to be perfect, then it will be perfect. If I want it to have light, then the frigid world will have light. This is the will of the Sovereign Lord, the true will of the Sovereign Lord. Yi Qinghan began to speak calmly as if he were speaking to Pan Xing, but also as if he were speaking to everyone else in the planar battlefield. Perhaps he was speaking to himself. The will of the Sovereign Lord ruled over everything. Martial artists borrowed the power of heaven and earth to fight their enemies. Divine emperors and paragons controlled the power of heaven and earth. But sovereigns created the power of heaven and earth. Sovereigns were the truly supreme beings, the truly invincible ones. This was because the world was created by them. Since they could create worlds, they could also destroy worlds and all living things. No. I don't believe it. I absolutely don't believe that an ant like you can defy the heavens. I'm going to kill you. Kill you. Pan Xing raised his head and roared. His body shot towards the peak of Mount Pan. As he moved, the wind and clouds began to change color. Countless bolts of lightning came from the end of the world. Countless seven-colored dragons quietly took shape. 1, 10, 100. Hundreds. Pan Xing stepped on the seven-colored dragons, his face filled with murderous intent. He rushed towards the peak of Mount Pan. Hundreds of dragons roared towards Mount Pan, towards Yi Qinghan. It seemed as if they wanted to destroy Mount Pan, destroy the planar battlefield, and destroy the entire world. Boom. The seven-colored dragons with unparalleled power smashed heavily onto Mount Pan, onto Yi Qinghan, and onto the sky. Boom. Mount Pan, which was billions of meters tall, suddenly collapsed and smashed heavily into the planar battlefield. The mud on its surface fell off, revealing its dark body. The material was simple and unadorned, and there were familiar images on its surface. It was actually a giant stick, a supreme spiritual treasure. However, no one paid attention to this supreme spiritual treasure. Everyone was dumbfounded as they looked at the sky above Mount Pan, at the giant hole that was millions of meters wide. Hundreds of seven-colored dragons collided with each other. The purest energy in the world, the super terrifying energy that gathered all the energy of heaven and earth from several major planes, caused an explosion. It actually pierced through the sky. When a martial artist cultivated to a certain level, they could tear apart space. They could create cracks in space, distort space, and even collapse space. However, no one had ever been able to break space permanently. Whether it was cracks, distortions, or collapses in space, they would automatically heal. However, at this moment, Pan Xing had pierced through the sky. This giant hole that was millions of meters wide was no longer healing. It was as if a huge hole had been torn in a beautiful dress. It looked extremely comical, extremely awkward, and extremely ugly. The sky was pierced, but that wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that the deity realm great emperor, the man who was said to have become a ruler, had disappeared. No one knew if he had been torn into pieces by the terrifying energy, or if he had fallen into the giant hole in space. Haha, ants will always be ants. Pan Xing stood in the void looking at the giant hole and laughed delightfully. However, before he could finish his sentence, a cold voice came from the giant hole in the sky. Idiot! Yi Qinghan had indeed fallen into the hole. However, he had casually crossed the void and walked out. He flicked the dust off his clothes, glanced at Pan Xing and said calmly, "Again." Boom. Hundreds of seven-colored dragons were formed again, whistling towards Yi Qinghan. Although Pan Xing's body was trembling, his eyes were completely crazed. He knew very well that if he didn't kill Yi Qinghan today, he would die. Idiot, I told you to come again so you would come again? Do you really think it's fun to bombard me? Facing this huge energy that could pierce through the sky, Yi Qinghan wasn't afraid at all. His expression didn't change at all. He extended a finger, pointed at the space and said proudly, "Ruler's intent, break." Chapter 1444. As that finger pointed at the void, the space suddenly lit up, as if a star had suddenly bloomed with light. Then this bit of starfire quickly spread in all directions, instantly covering the entire plane battlefield. Wherever the light passed, the hundreds of seven-colored dragons actually disintegrated without a sound, and the entire space froze at this moment. There was only one scene in everyone's eyes and minds. In the void, a finger lightly tapped, and then a ball of light spread in all directions, enveloping the entire void. The entire void lit up, and there was only light left in the entire scene. There was nothing but light in the entire scene, and there was nothing left. Ruler's will. The undefeatable ruler's will. Pan Xing's entire body became dispirited and powerless. The murderous aura on his body dissipated like a tide, and he could no longer summon the will to fight. Because he had seen Pan Huang use this move in the past. This ant was really heaven-defying. Not only did it jump out to challenge him, but it had also completely climbed above his head, becoming a supreme existence. He had lost, utterly lost. Pan Xing, those who do evil will bring about their own destruction. Take your own life. Yi Qinghan retracted his finger, and the light in the world rapidly dissipated. The scene in everyone's eyes and minds began to change, turning into the scene of the planar battlefield. In the sky, the hole was still there, and the billions of meters tall Mount Pan was still tilting to the ground. Pan Xing stood in the air with a face full of despair. In the sky, a green voice stood proudly. They couldn't look at it directly, they could only look up. Take my own life? Ridiculous? Do you really think I've lost? I won't lose. Even if I die, I'll make you suffer forever. Ah. Pan Xing's eyes emitted a sense of decisiveness, and his face was ferocious. He laughed loudly and his aura suddenly increased. He shouted, Supreme God-slaying stick rise? The billions of meters tall Mount Pan suddenly shone brightly, and it flew up, turning into a ray of light. Pan Xing controlled the airflow and held it up. You still want to struggle? Yi Qinghan sneered and said indifferently. Although Mount Pan was a supreme spiritual treasure, it was too ridiculous for Pan Xing to struggle with a supreme spiritual treasure. Ah! Watch this Emperor's heaven-shocking staff. Pan Xing's arms danced, and the 100-million-meter-long Supreme God-slaughtering cudgel danced in the air before suddenly smashing down, courting death. A look of anger appeared in Yi Qinghan's eyes. His body flickered, and he reappeared above the God-world stronghold. He pointed out with a finger. That's right. Pan Xing used the Supreme God-slaughtering rod, but he didn't smash it towards Yi Qinghan. Instead, he smashed it towards the God-world stronghold, towards Zhu Yi Ice Queen's God-world army. Yi Qinghan activated his sovereign will. Although the Supreme God-slaughtering staff looked terrifying, it was easily fixed in the air by Yi Qinghan. With a wave of his hand, the supreme spiritual treasure that Pan Shan had turned into was sent flying. Yi Qinghan sneered and shouted, Pan Xing, you still want to escape? The world is so big, where can you run to? Pan Xing had indeed escaped. He used the Supreme God-slaughtering stick to attract Yi Qinghan's attention. His body turned into a bolt of lightning and fled into the big hole in the space. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from the dimensional battlefield. Wait for me here. Yi Qinghan turned around and said to Xiao He and Zhu Yi. He took a step forward and disappeared into the big hole in the space. Pan Xing, where do you think you can escape to? Your speed is much slower than mine. The big hole in the space was pitch black, there was nothing, not a bit of light, nothing at all. Yi Qinghan's divine sense easily locked onto the escaping Pan Xing, and he coldly transmitted his voice. Pan Xing's body flew forward rapidly, and he turned his head and shouted, You can't kill me. If you kill me, Pan Huang won't let you off. I am Pan Huang's child. Pan Huang is the sovereign of Pangaea. Although you are a sovereign, do you think you are his match? Pan Huang? Hempen robe old man? Yi Qinghan's body stopped, and a barefooted old man in hempen robe appeared in his mind. He was almost sure that he was Pan Huang, the sovereign of Pangaea, because he remembered that when he first met the hempen robe old man, he also had the same sovereign will. He was the ruler of Cold Realm. The hempen robe old man was the sovereign of Pangaea. Both had sovereign wills. But Pangaea was hundreds of times bigger than Cold Realm. The sovereign will was also hundreds of times stronger than him. Yi Qinghan hesitated. Pan Xing was Pan Huang's son, then wouldn't Pan Shi be Pan Huang's daughter? No wonder Pan Shi said that she would only tell him the identity of the hempen robe old man after he became a god emperor supreme? Should I kill him or not? Yi Qinghan was conflicted in his heart. Pan Xing's crimes were monstrous, and with Pan Xing around, Pangaea would never be at peace. So many people from the divine world had died, and Yi Feihu and Mo Shanghuang's death was not avenged? But if he killed Pan Xing, he might go against Pan Huang. Kill. Finally, Yi Qinghan thought of the heart of an expert he comprehended outside Flame Dragon City, and the unyielding Tao he comprehended outside the divine world. Unyielding to heaven and earth, unyielding to himself, unyielding to fate. He had become a sovereign. If he had to worry about this and that, then what joy was there in life? If he didn't live in pain, then what meaning was there in life? Kill Pan Xing. If Pan Huang wanted to fight, then he would fight. Finally, Yi Qinghan chose not to yield, never to yield. He chose to follow his heart. He lightly pointed with a finger and shouted, Sovereign will destroy. Pan Xing die. No. Pan Huang, save me, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Pan Xing felt the finger pierce through the void. The void started to light up because of the sovereign will. A power that could destroy everything spread from behind him, causing him to howl in despair. But, besides his echoes, there was no other sound and no one appeared. The light spread to Pan Xing's body. Pan Xing's body turned into nothingness at a speed visible to the naked eye. Finally, Pan Xing's body was engulfed by the light. Pan Xing died. Pan Xing was directly destroyed by the sovereign will, but Yi Qinghan was not careless. This was because he discovered that in the void in front of him, a light was spreading at a terrifying speed. The sovereign will. Is Pan Huang here? Yi Qinghan's fighting spirit soared. His cold gaze locked onto the front, fearless and arrogant as he waited for Pan Huang's arrival. Pan Huang didn't come. That light was a path that extended from afar. The heavenly road. Second person come in. An aged voice rang out. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows. This voice was extremely familiar. It was the voice of the hemp-robed old man. The hemp-robed old man was indeed Pan Huang. Yi Qinghan was arrogant and fearless. He strode forward along the heavenly road formed by the light. At the end of the heavenly road was a gate. The gate was wide open as if it was welcoming Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan paused and walked into the wooden house. The scene in front of him changed again. A small valley appeared in front of him. There were trees, flowers, cute small beasts and wooden houses. There were also people too. Second person, we finally meet again. Two people stood quietly in front of the wooden house in the valley. One wore hemp robes and was barefoot. The other had purple hair and was extremely beautiful. Pan Huang and Pan Shi. Chapter 1445. You are Pan Huang? Yi Qinghan's face was full of wariness, but he had no intention of avoiding the battle. If Pan Huang wanted to fight him, he had nowhere to run except into the frigid realm. However, he could escape into the frigid realm, but what about his women, children, relatives, and friends? If everyone's deaths were exchanged for his life, Yi Qinghan would rather die with them for revenge in the future. Therefore, when Yi Qinghan heard the hemp-robed old man's summons, he came without hesitation. That's right, I am Pan Huang, the ruler of Pan Realm. The hemp-robed old man's voice was emotionless, and his gaze was calm. Instead, Pan Shi kept shooting strange looks at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan went straight to the point. Pan Xing is your son? Pan Huang answered straightforwardly, you can say so. You can say so? Yi Qinghan did not linger on this ambiguous answer. His aura surged and he stared at Pan Huang with surging battle intent. Then come. Here or outside? What do you mean here or outside? Pan Huang didn't move and he asked doubtfully. Let's fight. Yi Qinghan looked at Pan Huang doubtfully and said, I killed Pan Xing. You called me here not to start a fight with me? Ah. Pan Huang laughed loudly, and a bitter expression appeared on his face. He exchanged a glance with Pan Shi, then turned and said, You killed Pan Xing, but why should I start a fight with you? Yi Qinghan was enraged and he shouted coldly, I killed your son and you're not going to take revenge? Are you playing with me? Ah. Pan Huang smiled warmly, Yi Qinghan, you misunderstand. In fact, Pan Xing is my son and you are also my son. All the lives in Pan Realm are my children. Pan Realm was created by me and all lives are derived from Pan Realm. Aren't all the lives in Pan Realm my children? Say a lion killed a rabbit. Should I help the rabbit kill the lion? There are so many planes in Plate Realm, and countless lives are dying every day. Am I supposed to avenge them all? This. Yi Qinghan was confused. It seemed like Pan Huang's words made sense. Pan Huang smiled and continued, You also established the Cold Realm. In the future, the Cold Realm will give birth to life, and the life inside will kill each other. Would you kill another life for the sake of one? Of course not. Yi Qinghan said with absolute certainty, all lives in there are equal. I have no right to deprive them of their lives. That's right. Pan Huang's gaze turned deep. As rulers, we only need to ensure that Pan Realm's Cold Realm is not destroyed. As for the matters inside, there is no need for us to interfere. Otherwise we will destroy the balance. Once the balance is broken, the world will most likely be destroyed. And so you're not going to start a fight with me? Yi Qinghan heaved a sigh of relief. He had always been very peace-loving. It would be best if they could not start a fight and play their own game. Pan Huang did not know whether to laugh or cry. You are the second person that this old man has waited for countless epochs. This old man has been alone for so many epochs and finally found a kindred spirit. How can I start a fight with you? Furthermore, this old man has never killed before. The time I truly attacked was also just once. Sigh, that's good, that's good. Yi Qinghan rubbed his hands together, his face full of smiles. The last time they met, Pan Huang had already discovered his cold realm, but he had not shown any hostility. At that time, if Pan Huang wanted to crush him, it would really be no different from stepping on an ant. Furthermore, at this moment he was not Pan Huang's match. If Pan Huang wanted to kill him, why was there a need to be so polite? At that moment, Yi Qinghan sat down on a stone table in front of the wooden hut and beckoned Pan Huang over. Come and sit, come and sit. Don't stand on ceremony. That's right, Pan Shi. I fought a great battle and am a little thirsty. As the host, shouldn't you serve me some fine wine? Ah. Pan Huang and Pan Shi exchanged glances. Looking at this hooligan-like ruler of the cold realm, they smiled bitterly and were speechless. Pan Huang walked over and sat down beside him, but Pan Shi glanced at Yi Qinghan. With a flip of her hand, she took out a jar of spiritual liquid and poured it for Pan Huang and Yi Qinghan. Good stuff. No way, Pan Shi, you have to give me a few jars. I'll take them back. Yi Qinghan drank a mouthful, his mouth full of fragrance. He winked at Pan Shi and then said to Pan Huang with a serious expression, Pan Huang, since you said that I'm the second person and you're the first, I'll call you Big Brother in the future, okay? The title is just a code name. Do as you wish. Pan Huang did not mind and casually agreed. And Big Brother? Yi Qinghan immediately called out affectionately. Then he actually placed a hand on Pan Huang's shoulder and put his arm around Pan Huang's back. Pan Shi's beautiful eyes suddenly widened, her face filled with disbelief. There was actually someone in this world who dared to put his arm around Pan Huang's shoulder? Pan Huang was clearly not used to it, but he did not express anything. He only looked at Pan Shi with a bitter smile. Big Brother? Yi Qinghan ignored him and affectionately hugged Pan Huang, calling him Big Brother as if they were brothers who had been separated from each other for many years. He sized up Pan Huang with a sneaky smile, causing goosebumps to rise all over Pan Huang's body. Just as Pan Huang was about to ask, he said, Big Brother, look, we're just brothers. You've just acknowledged me as your younger brother, so you should at least show some appreciation, right? Appreciation? What do you mean by that? Pan Huang appeared confused. Yi Qinghan rubbed his hands and said with some embarrassment, It's a greeting gift. You've been the boss of Pan Realm for many years and I've only just been promoted. You have a lot of treasures. Did you casually give me millions of Supreme Spirit treasures? Black lines appeared on Pan Huang's forehead, and he decisively refused. No, do you think that thing is a divine artifact? Besides, what do you want it for? You don't even have that? Stingy? Yi Qinghan frowned and said, Then help me do one or two things. Tell me what it is first. Pan Huang said warily. He could also see that this new ruler of the Cold Realm was probably from the underworld. The moment he arrived, he had swindled and extorted. He had to be on guard. It's nothing big. Help me resurrect a few dozen family members. Yi Qinghan casually said, revealing his true goal. Lord Devour, the Soul Emperor, Yi Dao, Long Sinan, Yi Feihu, and so many others, as well as his deceased family and friends, had to be approved by this old man. If he was in the Cold Realm, he could easily resurrect them. But in Pan Realm, it would depend on this old man. No. As Yi Qinghan expected, Pan Huang straightforwardly refused. Big Brother, you're so heartless. Yi Qinghan angrily slammed the table and stood up. He blew his beard and glared, frowning as he looked at Pan Huang. This won't do, that won't do. I don't recognize you as my big brother anymore. In the future we won't have any contact. I don't want you as my big brother anymore. I'm leaving. Don't send me off. With that, Yi Qinghan was about to leave in a huff. Pan Huang and Pan Shi looked at each other, not knowing what to do. When he reached the portal, Yi Qinghan stopped. He turned around and said with a flattering smile, A few dozen won't do? Then I'll resurrect 10, right? Big Brother, I, Yi Qinghan, am a ruler. Give me some face. If I go back like this, I won't have the face to see anyone. Pfft. Pan Shi cracked a smile, and it was like a lily blooming, causing Yi Qinghan's heart to sway. Pan Huang pondered for a moment, feeling conflicted. Finally, he sighed helplessly and said, Only one can be resurrected. There won't be a next time. One then. Yi Qinghan was overjoyed when he heard that. As long as Pan Huang relented now, wouldn't it be difficult in the future? With his means, he would have Pan Huang help resurrect them all sooner or later. At that moment, Yi Qinghan jogged over with a cheeky smile and put his arm around Pan Huang's shoulder again. He was so enthusiastic that Pan Shi turned around. Big Brother, you're a righteous person. I've decided to be your big brother in this lifetime. When you're free in the future, come to my cold realm and take whatever you like. If you want 1,000,000 beauties, I won't even bat an eye and give them to you. I'm just joking. Big Brother, you're just too boring. You'll get old easily. Yi Qinghan started to swindle again, almost causing Pan Huang to go berserk. Finally, Yi Qinghan started to ask about serious matters. All right. Big Brother, my soul comes from a place called Earth. Is this Earth a plane within your Pan realm? Of course it's a plane. Pan Shi answered. She was in charge of the cycle of life and had investigated Yi Qinghan before. She was very familiar with Yi Qinghan and answered, It's a material plane, a plane attached to the Milky Way. Why, do you want to go back and take a look? Of course I have to go back and take a look. If there's time, I'll have to trouble Fairy Pan Shi to lead the way. Hee, we can also talk about our dreams and whatnot. Yi Qinghan stared at Pan Shi with a burning gaze, causing her to blush. Yi Qinghan knew when to stop and asked another question in his heart. Big brother, what's the secret of the Supreme Slaughter God Saber? Why is it incomplete? The Supreme Slaughter God Saber had followed Yi Qinghan for many years. Yi Qinghan had deep feelings for it. Now that the boss of Pan Realm was here, he naturally had to ask. Pan Huang explained, haha, the Supreme Slaughter God Saber is indeed incomplete. It's the blade of an axe. As for the axe shaft, I'm sure you've seen it before. I've seen it before? Yi Qinghan scratched his head in confusion. Then his eyes narrowed and he exclaimed, Pan Shan. It's the Supreme Slaughter God staff that Pan Shan turned into. Pan Huang nodded and said, this axe is a weapon that was born with me back then. The only time I used it was when I used it to split open heaven and earth. After that, heaven and earth were created and Pan Realm evolved. The might of this weapon was too great, far surpassing that of a paragon spiritual treasure. So, I tore it apart, split it into two and threw it into Pan Realm. So that's how it is. Yi Qinghan suddenly understood. This was Pan Huang's weapon. No wonder it had the might of a paragon spiritual treasure even when split into two. The Slaughter God Saber was originally an axe blade. It was modified by the ancestor of the fiend world with the blood of an evil demon, turning it into its current form. Wait for me to go back. I'll think of a way to connect the Supreme Slaughter God staff with the Slaughter God Saber and see if it can recover its might. Splitting heaven and earth with one axe, this weapon is too awesome. Yi Qinghan secretly made up his mind. In the next second he suddenly thought of something. His eyes widened as he stared at Pan Huang in shock. After a long time he said, splitting heaven and earth with one axe? Pan Realm? Pan Huang? Your surname is Pan, and you used an axe to split heaven and earth? You can't be Pangu, right? Pan Huang said disapprovingly, some planes indeed call me Pangu. Is there anything strange about that? Pangu splitting heaven and earth. Yi Qinghan rubbed his nose embarrassedly. After a long time he squeezed out 4 words, God damn it. End of book.